as fast as possible is, like I said, people in our culture, they love this 10,000 piece mousetrap. They love all the whistles and bells to make this great, fantastic mousetrap. Me, I take a piece of rolled up newspaper and go whack, and I'm done. That's how I trap my mouse. Like, here's cheese, there's a whack, and I'm done. So I'm like, okay, there's the cheese. Okay, ask them, who's Regina? Whack, I'm done. Answer that. There is no answer. How are you going to answer that? So the crown and the judge were like, holy cow, nobody's ever asked us such a simple question. They were looking at each other, and the crown finally says, the same as the monarch of Canada? What the hell's a monarch of Canada? I never heard of a monarch of Canada. You know, where does she live? Where's the monarch of Canada live? You know, Ottawa? Monarch of Canada, was that a type of butter? A type of wine? That's what the, was it type? If you said, if you say, right, butterfly, if you say it's the monarch of Montana, we're going to say, oh, it's one of those big butterflies I got up there. So Catherine's like, oh, that's what we thought. Queen of England, that's who we thought. It was Queen Elizabeth. And they were like, yes. I said to the bailiff, because I stood in the back, I said, it's on. They said, what? They're in a battle of their lives. What? She just can't shut up. It's like Lot's wife. Just don't turn around and look at that, because you're going to turn to a pill of salt. You turn around, you're dead. You say anything other than let them answer, and then we're going to address how they answered us. I said, all you had to do was get them to say, the monarch of Canada. Say, thank you, good day, and leave. I would have wrote back to them and says, yes, in open court that you mentioned somebody named the monarch of Canada. May I please have her address? May I have her phone number? Or if you're her attorney, may I settle the matter with you? And at some portion in time, the monarch of Canada, the plaintiff, the person who's complaining, whining, some miserable person is complaining and whining that I'm doing something in my closet. Are they going to come forth into the open court with their complaint and saying what I was doing in my closet harmed them, or they accrued a loss, a financial loss, or that I injured them somehow? Are they going to appear? That's how we would have played it next.
Were they defendants in this case at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have flipped the court in a sense. Is like you guys were trying to find who was the man.
We would have, if they would have said, no matter who they said, if they said, we believe what you're doing is fictitious litigation, and what we think that you're doing is barratry, that you're bringing complaints that have no validity, that doesn't exist, because honestly, we don't think this Regina is ever going to appear, and we don't think Regina is ever going to pen anything, write anything that we've actually done anything wrong. Honestly, we don't think you have a complaint from Regina. So when you have a plaint, I mean, I could look at my dictionary and show you a plaint. It's something that somebody comes from the public and they write that somebody's broken a public law. Who penned the plaint? And I guarantee it wasn't Regina. So who penned the plaint?
The state.
The state has arms and legs?
The state is people
No.
that we voted.
The state has no arms and legs. Susie or Bobby or Billy or Joey did. So we're going to find out who wrote this plaint. If we find out that some guy named Bobby or Billy, down in Vancouver, filed this plaint, we're going to find out why do they believe that what we did caused them harm. They better have a damn good reason why. Billy better come up and say that he was directly harmed, injured, or accrued a financial loss because they were growing something in their closet. And Billy better be able to prove it, that he accrued a loss. And Billy will, Susie or Joey, whoever plainted it, will never appear in open court and testify that they were harmed, injured, or wrong, because they know they weren't. So, plaint, there you go, plaint. A private memorial tendered to a court in which a person set forth his cause of action, the exhibiting of an action in writing, a complaint, a plaint. A formal accusation exhibited by a private person against an offender for the breach of a public law. Down here, a complaint, a formal accusation exhibited by a private person against an offender for a breach. So, how is the Attorney General considered a private person? Only when he acts as a man in his individual capacity. He is not a private person when he's the Attorney General. He's just a title. He's not actually flesh and blood. He's an Attorney General. The Attorney General could be the name of a stick of butter up here. The Attorney General can mean anything. Whatever you believe Attorney General means is what it means. But to file a plaint or a complaint, it has to be from a private person. Who's Regina? It better be a private person. You know the rules, buddy. It's in your own damn code books. Is she a private person? Are we talking about Elizabeth Windsor here? If he says yes, it's like, oh boy, I'm going to love to have Elizabeth Windsor summoned to appear in court. Because, I've always wondered what she looked like. It's like I said, it's a very famous case in the United States called Clinton versus Jones. It really should have been called Jones versus Clinton because she was the plaintiff. It should have really been stylized Jones versus Clinton, but everybody liked that it was President Clinton, so they decided to put, for some reason, called it Clinton versus Jones. It's backwards. So, what's funny about this case is she was going after the President of the United States because he groped her or something when she went to a hotel room. She called her up for a towel or whatever, and he groped or whatever. So she was suing him on a civil level. And he was the President of the United States, and he was like, "You can't sue me. I got to keep my finger on the button, and I'm the most supreme power on planet Earth, and I got my finger on the nuclear button just in case the Russians or Chinese attack. I got to be able to do that and kill all the enemies. And if Mars attacks, I got to be able to push the button and get all the naval forces and the aircraft on high alert. I got to keep my finger on the button. She could wait to sue me when I'm no longer the president." And the Supreme Court came down with a great ruling. They said, if anybody else on planet Earth should realize, you are the #1 servant to man. You are a public servant, first and foremost. You swore to hold the duty and obligation to serve man. She is summoning you to serve her in an Arkansas little hokey-dokey little town court. You will serve her and you will appear. So the ruling against him, against the United States Supreme Court, said, you're a servant. You, amongst anybody else, should know you exist only to serve and benefit man. If you cause harm to man, you will answer to man. I don't care if she's a stupid motel room clerk lady. I don't care if she's the maid. I don't care who she is. You serve her. You had no right to do what you did to her. She's calling you out on it as man to man. You will appear man to man. Now, if he wanted to claim that he was a man, he probably could have got away with it. But claiming that he's a public servant, the ultimate supreme power on planet Earth, they brought him back down to Earth and said, no, you're a public servant, pal. So this guy who's going after Regina versus Joe, he's a public servant. He better have a damn good reason why he's calling out a man. And it better be a damn good reason. And like I said, the only problem with like I said, when people get in touch with me and they've only heard about me for 2-3 days and they only listen to an hour or two of my stuff, it's hard. My stuff is a lifestyle. It's a belief. It isn't a template that you just put into court. It's a way you act like your whole entire life. How to act when you go in public. Like I always say to people, when I was a kid, we had records back then, and we used to go to Manny's Music in New York City, or we used to go to Bleecker Bob's. And when I went to Bleecker Bob, and I was buying some records like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, because the city, New York City, never sleeps. It's a great city. And he said to me, "Kid, where are you from?" He said, "You from Ohio or Chicago?" I said, "No, I'm here from New York." He says, "You could have fooled us." He was like, "Why?" He says, "It's the way you act in public." He says, "You're very courteous to everybody." He says, "You're very polite. You always wear a shirt with buttons." He says, you stand upright. He says, "It's just the way you carry yourself that shows us that you're not from here. You're not, And then my friend said, "Well, where?" He said, "Well, where do you think I'm from, dude?" He said, "Oh, you're from, from Brooklyn. You're from Queens." It's like, hey, because they had like Black Sabbath or Eat Shit and Die T-shirts on, and I always wore. I never went out in public in my underwear, like in a T-shirt. To me, that's my underwear. I'm not walking around in my underwear. That's ridiculous. My mom taught me about it. You never know who you're going to meet, so I always dress nice. So, like I said, it's the way you carry yourself in these courts. It's all how you act in public, how you act in court. And like some people say to me, it's like, "Well, I'm not dressing up to their level." Well, if you try to carry that nonsense off of there in the Middle East somewhere, and you think you're going to not enter their temple in a certain way, they're going to chop off your feet if you walk in there with shoes on or something. You're going to wish you took off your shoes. You're going to wish that you didn't shake somebody's hand with your left hand. You're going to wish that you acted according to the customs of the building's manager, the people the stewards who are running that place. You better act courteously, and courteous is a word. It's funny, somebody laughed at me at a one of these other things. They say, "You mean courteously?" No, I don't curtsy to anybody. No, it's a courteous. So I said, "Somebody Google the word." So they Googled it and read it out, and they said, "Oh wow, that is a word." Yeah, so it's a word. It's how one acts proper decorum when you're in a court. So when you're always in public, you're always being judged. You're always being judged by your acts, but more by your inactions, what you're failing to do. And like I said, if your parents didn't teach you properly, it's hard to fake it. It's hard, like I said, if people watch those old Star Trek episodes, Captain Kirk was switched with the evil Captain Kirk into the good Captain Kirk. And Spock said it was very easy to tell the evil Captain Kirk because he used his fingers to eat with at the table. He didn't use a knife and fork properly. He didn't know how to act civilized. But it's very easy for a civilized man to act like an animal. I could get down and do what I got to do, but when I have to act civilized, I could act civilized. You can't fake it. So the judge, and you got to understand, this is the culture and society we live in. And if you don't want to act accordingly, like I said to somebody like Dean's brother, when he asked me, can you help my brother? I said, absolutely not. He's going to cause great harm to the society and wherever he decides to lie. I said, because you got this Yukon territory, why doesn't he move there? Tell me he's going to have fat kids and marry a nice, big old gal and disappear forever. I'll help him get out in a heartbeat. But if he's going to come back into the society, which has like credit cards and debit cards and birth certificates and driver's licenses, and thinks he's just going to start chaos and mayhem in that nice little controlled society, why would I want to cause harm to some society that they took hundreds and hundreds of years to develop to that level? Why would I want to do that? When there's billions of acres here in Canada, if he doesn't like it, him and his little friends could go find and build their own little city or town, like they did in Keene, New Hampshire. These people took over a town that's been around for 400 years. Now these hippies think that, they could walk around nude, smoke dope, drive without licenses, wreck their cars around somebody's tree, and say, oops, forgive me, thy brother. And it's like, hey, this is our town for 400 years. You want to act like that? Go up in northern New Hampshire, go build your own little town, and go ahead and do whatever you want to do up there. But why are you doing it to this nice little community that we have here? It took us 100 years to develop it. Why are you doing this to us? So it's funny, the people in Keene, New Hampshire, when I went up there, the hippies sure didn't appreciate what I was saying. Because they were like, well, they don't got to do anything. This is their community. You guys are invaders. You guys are guests here. You guys are hostile enemies. You better act like you better, assimilate with this culture. Or, find another place to terrorize. I said, terrorism, that's a great word too. Terrorism is just an interference with the proper function of government. So like I say to people all the time, what form of government, well in Canada, what form of government do you folks have?
Fascism.
Social monarchy.
Self-government.
Yeah, self-government. I'd say 99.995% of your life, you self-govern. From 0 to 18, you lived under a dictatorship. Here's my house, it's my rules. Live or die. You choose. But once you get to the age of majority, once you decide to strike out on your own, 99.999% of the time, you're self-governing. So the odds of you having to go to Ottawa to ask somebody to call up in Ottawa and say, you know what, I was thinking about having a second cup of coffee before I went to bed at night, but you know what, it makes me kind of jittery. Do you think I should or shouldn't do that? And they're going to be like, who you want again? I was like, I want not Trudeau. Who's your Harper or somebody? Yeah, Harper, there you go. I'm just asking, I need a little governing here, because I'm not sure what to do. Because everybody knows to govern just means to steer, like a rudder on a ship. It's just a governor just helps maintain a certain position. And that's what governors do. They maintain a position that the legislators, that the acts of the Congress, that they pass into law. All the governor does is enact on those laws. He just steers it into that position. He's like, this is the way the people wish to go? Fine, I'll help steer them in that position. I'm the governor. So, 99, almost the whole entire process of our life, other than from 0 to 18, we self-govern. So, if somebody tries to get in front of me and impede my ability to go from point A to point B, I don't say travel, I go from point A to point B. Because there's no way to redefine that. And like they come up with 500, what does travel mean? Oh, the Supreme Court says this, the Bible says this, the Quran says travel. Okay, who says from point A to point B? Who defined that? Well, nobody. Well, good. I'm going to use that definition. Are you interfering from my right, from me? Are you interfering with me going from point A to point B? Yes, good. You've got to have a damn good reason, because that's called terrorism. Because terrorism is just interfering with the proper function of government. So can you understand what I'm saying now, why it's so important when you're a self-governing? Do you understand why now? I say you're terrorizing me, or you're a terrorist, because you're interfering with my right to go from point A to point B. Terrorist. Yeah, look at all these coaches are terrorizing. But it's the interference with the proper function of government. I'm trying to find a great fear. Terrorism is an action against any body, politic, it's men, women, children. But terrorism is just interference with the proper function of government. So if you're trying to be self-governing and you're interfering with my ability to function, obviously you're terrorizing me. There's somebody in the United States called, oh, I don't remember this guy's name. But some guy said he tangled up the court for 4 hours with this silly traffic ticket. And I said, you know, you just admitted on the open air that you terrorized this poor court system. He says, yes, if everybody, you know, committed acts of terrorism, we could shut this court system down. I said, a court system is a public function, and you just don't know how to access it properly or use it to your benefit. So since you don't know how to play the game, you go to like the game of baseball or football or something like, and you're the clown that throws stuff out in the field or run around and just start all kinds of mayhem and nonsense out there because you don't like the game, or you don't believe that anybody should be playing baseball. It's a waste of time, or it's, you know, it's corrupting the minds of children. I said, no, look, dude, if you don't want to participate in the judicial process, don't. I said, just tell them that you do not wish to appear, and you explain why as a man. That you will appear when another man calls you forth. But until another man calls me forth at this time, unless you're going to compensate me for wasting my time because no man is going to appear, at this time I do not find the benefit in appearing in your court. You know, good day. Could you just write something nice like that? Instead of saying, well, you know what, we all got to take our court I said, you know, dude, you had a blue light on your dashboard. The cop gave you a ticket because he was running around stopping cops. You know, he's playing cop. What is this guy's name? I can't believe it. I can't remember his name. And what's that? Yeah, Rod Class. That's his name, Rod Class. With a guy helped in Indiana who had 4 felonies. 2 of the felonies he got was after he put Rod Class's paperwork into the federal court. So he only had 2 federal felonies for failing to file taxes, and 2 more after Rod Class came to his house for 10 days and wrote this manifesto for him. He got 2 more federal felonies put up against him. So what I was trying to say with this Rod Class, this guru guy, I said, do you understand that you know, all you had was a very simple ticket, OEM equipment, original equipment manufacturer, that it did not come with the vehicle at the time of the creation of the vehicle, so you're not allowed to modify the vehicle. I said, why didn't you just have somebody come forth in that court and says, were you there when I bought the vehicle at the time I bought it from the dealer? No. Can anybody testify that that blue light wasn't on the dashboard the day I bought it from the dealer? No. Well, then I say, and I swear, that light was on the dashboard the minute I bought it from the dealer. So that's original equipment from the manufacturer. Anybody going to claim that it wasn't better come forth now, and they better be able to prove it. They better not just whine and complain and say, well, that's ridiculous, that's silly. Ridiculous and silly is not a fact. Do you have a fact that you were with me at the time? Do you have the chain of custody that you saw that car come off the assembly line without a blue light? Do you have anybody come forth to say that for the last 30 years they stood by that car the whole time? No. I said, why don't you just move a simple answer to the court like that? I believe it's OEM. I believe it was there at the time I purchased the vehicle. I do not know how the manufacturer got on the dashboard prior to the day that I bought it, but as far as I'm concerned, it was there when I bought it. As far as I'm concerned, it's OEM. It's the original equipment that on the day I bought it. That's simple. So why can't you just do simple stuff like that and make the court laugh instead of dragging them on with your ridiculous nonsense you put into the court? Because it was funny when the man in Indiana brought me to his house to help him with his IRS case. He owed like $380-something thousand one year, $160 for another year. So this man, he was doing a lot of offshore banking. And he said to me, well, you could spend 10 days on my sofa. He said, Rod spent 10 days. I said, 10 days? I said, if I read this complaint and I can't figure it out in about 20 minutes, man, I'm going home. And so it's so funny. He gives me the complaint from the federal government. I said, holy cow, look at this on the United States government. I said, holy cow. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, I I said, you know what? It's like 9:30. He had an ankle bracelet on, so he'd only get me to a motel by 10 o'clock. I said, boy, I got to do this fast. It's already 9:30. I said, you got to get back here by 10, right? Yeah. I said, go make me a cup of coffee and let me see how I figure this out real quick. So on the first page, it was dynamite. The United States government delivered man. This is a great complaint. I said, holy cow, usually I figure it out on the first page. So I flipped it over to the second page. It was like, there it was, 4 words on the second line. I said, got this. So I'm looking through the complaint real quick to see if there was anybody going to come forth to actually have a claim of any harm, injury, or loss. So I was flying through it real quickly. And I couldn't find it. I was like, yes, they don't. Oh, I thought they had it there. Oh, no, good. So by the time he's done making a cup of coffee, I was like, oh, it's like 9:45. Get me down to the motel. He says, no, you can stay here. I said, no, dude. I said, I'm done. I said, can we get to the federal agents tomorrow and talk to them? They said, no, we're scheduled for Thursday. I said, can you move it up sooner? Ask them if we can meet tomorrow, because we're done. He says, we're done. I said, yeah, we're done. He says, you read all that? I said, I read all I need to know. Let's go. So he took me down to the motel, and then we could only move it up till Wednesday. So when we went down there to talk to the feds on Wednesday, the one lady, you could tell she was real nervous when she saw me walking in, because he was like a free man kind of guy. So you could see, like, under the table, her leg was shaking. It was funny, and after about 20 minutes, the leg stopped shaking. So the feds, we started talking to them, and he was hitting everything. We practiced for 3 days, so it was good that we had 3 days to kill. So we were practicing what he should say when we go talk to the United States government. And he was hitting them all great. He was basically saying, I don't recall writing that. Did I write that? Does anybody remember me writing that? No, nobody in this room saw me write that. No, you know what? I don't remember that. Like the chain of custody. Has anybody had this document in their possession from the time I delivered it to the United States government? No. Nobody's going to appear to testify to that? No. Then you know what? I don't recall writing that. No, I don't recall. He was doing a Hillary Clinton thing. When she took the stand one time for Congress, she just kept saying, I don't recall. And the congressman asked her a great question. Is there anything you don't recall that you do recall that you can recall today? She says, I don't recall. So it's fantastic that they can't force you to confess. They can't force you to convict yourself. And that's all it's based on, is your confession. You put the pen and paper in hand and you convict yourself. And you self-confess. You tell me what you believe that you made this year. And you put it in writing. And you just say, I don't recall. Do you recall? Because I certainly don't recall. Were you there with me 365, 24/7? I don't remember what I made last year. Why don't you tell me what I made? You're the smart one. You're the got the master's degree. You're the one who's getting paid to do this. You tell me what I made. I'm an idiot. So they love that spiel, so it was a lot of fun. And so it was fun that after about 20 minutes, the lady's leg calmed down. About an hour into talking to us, the one lady said to me, she says, I'm sorry about the way I treated you at first. I said, that's okay, ma'am. I get that reaction a lot when people first see me. And she said, yeah, she says, you're a lot smarter than you look. I said, oh, yeah. I said, I do that for a purpose, ma'am. I said, it lets the guard, and it lets you, you act towards me a certain way. If I showed up in a 3-piece suit and tie and slick, and my hair nice and short like my brother, because he works for an insurance company, you would treat me a different way than you treated me. At first you act hostile and you get all angry. I said, it's a lot of fun. You get very defensive and you say things that you shouldn't say. Because I said to this guy who brought me there, I said, you're going to think that there's something mentally wrong with me, because when I'm going to be like a grand inquisitor here. I said, but I'm going to play like, what's that guy's name? Columbo, Peter Falk. I'm going to be doing like...
Just one last thing.
That's his dad.
Yeah, I said to ladies, like, wouldn't that be considered a, what's that word? It's like, and she'd fill in the blank, like confession. It's like, that's right, confession. And it was funny. I said, you're going to hear me, like, looking for the word. You're going to see me acting in front of you. You're going to see me be doing this, like Columbo. And I'm doing this on purpose to have you engage with me, to have you tell me what you believe. So I'm going to hold you to your beliefs. That's what they get you for, their confession or conviction. They hold you on what you believe. So I'm going to get her to speak to us, or whoever appears, whatever the man wants to talk. And I said, you're going to see some like stammering and stuttering on my part. It's like Columbo. You're gonna say, dude, are you having a mental breakdown or something like this? Trust me, you're going to love how I act when I go into these exams. You're going to love it. I said, not when I act in court, I'm going to act a different way. But when I'm trying to get information out of somebody, I'm going to leave a lot of blanks. And they're going to feel that they're helping me because they have three-piece suit and tie and they're so smart. And they're going to jump to my aid and they're going to fill in a blank. And then when they fill in a blank, obviously I'm going to attack them, whatever that they just said, whatever word that they just used. I'm going to say, oh, really? But wouldn't that mean this? And they say, well, yeah, that's what that literally means. Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun, playing stupid, because they leave themselves wide open. So like I said, it's an act. And when we went there, it was funny, the one lady said to me, she said, she says, well, we have a national convention for federal prosecutors and public defenders. Last year we held one in Atlanta. Would you be available to come speak to the public defenders? Because we believe that we're going to see a lot of your paperwork come across our desks in the near future, if this stuff of yours catches on. And I said, ma'am, did you see something like mine come across? Like you said, that Rod Class guy, so as soon as I went to talk to them, 2 of the federal felonies against him were dropped immediately. Just because I talked to the prosecutors, I explained who this Rod Class was, and they dropped 2 of them immediately. And then the other 2 were still standing. And what was funny is, the feds said to them, well, we were going to have the trial next week, but you know what, we're really busy, so you know what, we'll do this sometime in 2015. And I said, oh, no, you won't. I said, you're going to move this case against this man now. And I said, if you don't move your claim against him, your complaint against him, I'm going to go show this man how to file a claim against you for fictitious litigation, malicious prosecution, barratry. Because like I always say to people, you got to be careful. And, then these people are going to try to say, well, we'll hold it over for another 6 months or another year. If you really know what you're doing, you're going to keep going on the aggressive attack. You're going to say, oh, no, I've got you right where I want you, and you're not going to try to wiggle something out 6 months from now, a year from now. Oh, no, I'm going to move a case against you now. You better move your case against me next week, because I'm going to be moving my case against you next week. Or you don't move your case against me next week, within 22 days, I'm going to be moving my case against you. So federal is just a Hebrew word that means to pledge. It doesn't mean, federal government doesn't mean United States exclusively, because you guys have federal courts up here in Canada, right? That's right, they got federal courts in Mexico, they got federal courts in China. So federal doesn't mean Canadian government court. Federal court just means it's a pledge court that we pledge to meet. Like if you summons me to appear, I give you my word, I pledge that I'll be there. So federal, like I tell people in the United States all the time, if you just listen to like the President of the United States give speeches, it's hysterical. Listening to all the jurisdictions and all of the way that he uses synonyms to manipulate the language. He'll say, us of the federal government. The next thing he'll say, he'll be the United States government. Then he'll say, North America. Well, then he'll say, Americans. It's hysterical. Or he'll say, citizens of the United States. Or he'll say United States citizens. It's hysterical. In one speech, you think he keeps saying basically the same thing. And he said, well, federal, U.S. government, North America, Americans, citizens of the United States, U.S. citizens. Every single time he says something, this is not the same as this. This is not the same as this. This is not the same as this. But he keeps... it's funny, and if you listen to him literally, you're laughing your ass off. Because at one time, it sounds nice that he's protecting you, but he's flat out saying, we totally control you, own you, we're going to do whatever we want with you. And you just laugh. It's like he's telling the truth. He's saying exactly what you'd expect from like a mommy or daddy telling the kids. Because like I said, the best speech I ever heard in my whole life was when Barack Obama said, the greatest gift that our forefathers gave us was the right to self-govern. This was October 17th, 2013, at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was funny, I was just listening, I listened to stupid government radio, so yay. So they reopened the federal government for business. The United States government was funny. They closed down for a while, and they realized nobody cared. So they said they better reopen before nobody cares that we're not existing. The only people that cared was some Japanese and German tourists that Smokey the Bear wasn't out in Yosemite Park. But other than that, nobody cared. There was no riots and looting in the street, so nobody cared. So what's funny is at 8:18 a.m., he said, let's work together to make the government work better. Yay. Instead of treating it like an enemy or making it work worse. That's not what the founders of this nation envisioned when they gave us the gift of self-government. So when I heard him say that, I said, holy cow, this is the first time in U.S. history that I've ever read where a president of the United States flat out admitted that this nation is those of the self-governing. So if anybody from the United States government ever tried to say that they wanted to control me, it's like, wait a second, your great leader-in-chief, Mr. Barack Obama, said, I self-govern. Are those some sort of government rules, like United States government rules? Yeah. Are you trying to interfere in my right to self-govern? Because Barack Obama said that. If you want me to have Barack Obama appear as my witness and say the greatest gift I have in this nation is that right to self-govern. Are you trying to tell me that your fearless leader is lying? Are you telling me, wait a second, aren't you subordinate to Barack Obama? Yeah. Am I subordinate to Barack Obama? Are you a U.S. citizen? Not at this moment in time, I'm not. At this moment in time, that what you are witnessing and appearing before you is a man. You know I am in the image of God. I am in the image of you're my creation. You are man's creation. You are a government employee. Your title was designed and created and stylized by man. So, who works for who? Who's the public servant? Who's the public? Am I the public or am I the public servant? Who serves who? And sir, you're out of your control. You're out of jurisdiction. You are now addressing a man. You do know that. So like I said, some of these officers that you meet do know this and some don't. So like I said, when I was working on my car at my sister's house one day, and the moving van pulled up with the sheriff's department and some movers, my sister owed a debt. The debt was tiny. The debt was only $3,500. But when she moved out of New York State, she was one of these, it's called the Hamptons, like rich people. They thought they were, she married into like the Gambinos, so they all thought they had money. So she had 1 million credit cards. So there's one credit card that she owed was only $3,500, and it was to some fancy store called Macy's. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. So it's a hoity-toity kind of store. So they, $3,500 is peanuts, So what happened was she didn't give a forwarding address when she moved to Virginia. So they moved immediately with a warrant and debt on her in Virginia. And Virginia's a Commonwealth state, and well, it's not a state, it's a Commonwealth, and it moves like lightning. You get judgments against people so fast, it's not even funny. They maintain the peace like you have no idea. In Virginia, it's funny, if I woke up at 3:07 a.m. and a county sheriff deputy was sitting next to me in my bedroom, there's nothing I could do about it. It's a Commonwealth. They don't need no warrants, they need nothing. When they maintain the peace, they mean it. It's a lot of fun living in Virginia. There's very little crime where I live. Everybody knows the rules real well. So sometimes there's a benefit for being in a Commonwealth compared to a state. They do it for the common well-being. Everybody's in one communal. Everybody pleases everybody. It's amazing. Because like I said, where I live, not too long ago, some girl was raped, and the guy was put on trial. And as soon as he was put on trial, the guy tried to say that the girl wanted it, and the dad stood up and put a bullet around the guy's head in court and killed the guy. So it was funny. Obviously, they had to, arrest the dad and prosecute the dad, but the jury found him not guilty, and they let him go. What they should have charged him with where I lived was discharging a firearm in the public, because it could have ricocheted off that guy's head and hit that poor clerk lady. That I would have found guilty if they said he discharged a weapon in public. That I would have said the jury should have found him guilty of. But killing that guy, they don't care. That's like I said, where I live, that's fine. Somebody did something like that to your daughter, you want to do that, that's fine. So it all depends on the jury. It all depends on who your neighbors are and where you live. Like I said, if it was the Eskimos, they might do the same thing to them. They might have more fun punishment for raping one of their kids. So that's the common law. That's the beliefs where I live. If somebody does that to your daughter, put a bullet in his eye, and everybody in the neighborhood says, "Yay, we don't have to worry about our daughters now because that guy's gone."
Is it the same in the state of Indiana, the common law?
A common law. Oh yeah, common law is.
Is it also in the state of Indiana?
Common law is. Yeah, I'll show you. there's the Commonwealth. There's I think there's seven Commonwealth states, 7 Commonwealth territories in the United States, and Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia, Kentucky. Those are the big ones that I know of, and they're pretty close to me, so that's why I know them too. But common law is in a lot of countries. I'm trying to pop that map up for the common law. You got common law, like I said, in Quebec. If you go to YouTube, and you get Karl Lentz, James Daly, Restoration Birds. You put that on YouTube, you'll see Mr. Daly. He owns Lion Safari Park up there in Hamilton. It's a great big huge drive-through park. It's like the biggest drive-through park you folks have here in Canada. So he called me up here, and him and his friends' birds were being taken away by the Crown. So his one friend in Quebec went on trial for failing to register the birds, not having the proper permits, no vaccinations, keeping birds in captivity, all this nonsense, endangered species. So he said that to the court. I guess I could find it later. I'll take a break with it, but you could actually hear Mr. Daly saying it to me. And the man has got 350 employees in his zoo. So this man has there'd be nothing for him to gain to call me up and lie. And he says, I'm going to transcribe this stuff from French into English for you, so you can show people proof that this restoration of property stuff works, and it's true, and it even works in Quebec. Because like I said, this is a map of all the common law nations on like Australia, India, but almost everything's under some sort of Napoleonic code or Sharia law, some sort of Islamic-based law.
Why is South Africa a different color? And I've looked at your map before. Am I just seeing it wrong, or is
by jurisdictional, like Quebec?
Oh yeah.
Quebec runs both ways under Napoleonic code and common law, but common law always prevails. So common law is just the customs of the people. Common law is always at the top. Like, what do our people do? See, that's what I'm saying. When you go to Mecca, and you want to go see, you want to go circle that rock. They're going to, right, well, they ask you a question, and right, they ask you a question, in the Quran, and you have to answer it right, and if you don't, they have the right to kill you for trying to trespass, into their holy temple, and that you're an infidel. So, the rules. It's like, if you don't know the Quran, if you're an infidel, you better not try to come here, because the penalty is death. So, but like I said, Mr. Daly, he's talking on the phone to me, and he says, well, it worked out great for the man in Quebec. He said, this is all in French. He says, and what happened was they took that man's birds as well, but you never use the words birds. See, because government exists to secure, the number one purpose that governments exist for is to secure and protect the property of man. They don't exist to secure and protect your rights, your car, your children, your bank accounts, your houses. That's not what they exist. They exist to protect your, and secure property. So that's why they exist. So if you keep coming to them and say, well, I need you to protect this, I need you to protect that, they have no duty and obligation to protect your birds. They have no duty and obligation to protect your car. Of course, it doesn't say that literally in the law. What they exist for is to protect your property. And property is that which is proper to a man, that which is exclusive to all others within society. This includes all the products and services he creates by laboring his or her body. So what's funny is governments understand this simple concept. So when this man walked into a court and he accepted all the illegal activity that the Crown was claiming or complaining, the criminal complaint, not a criminal claim, all the complaining that they were like, fine, 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 sure I do that, fine, fine, yeah, fine, yeah, I did, yeah, you're complaining some more than I'm, yeah, fine, yeah, great, that's fine, but this is still common law, yeah, you know what, and I still haven't done anything wrong, so you know what, keep complaining, and I'm just going to accept everything you're complaining about, because you know what, it has no bearing on me, it has no force and effect, it can't do anything to me, just complaining. I accept all your complaining, believe me, it's a lot easier to just accept your complaining than complain back or argue back, I'm not wasting my time. I don't have to answer to a complaint. I have to answer claims. So when they got done, the Crown got done with his portion, he simply said to them, okay, fine. Did I accept all your fines, penalties, and all this other stuff? Yes, fine, great. And he said, the judge, now I require of you to restore my property. So he said the courtroom went deathly silent. He said, what? He says, I order and require of you to restore my property. So the judge or the magistrate looked over at the Crown and said, restore this man's property immediately. And the Crown tried to say, what? That's ridiculous. Only find endangered species, you require it post haste. So he said that the judge said, you know, you'll have your property returned, sir. And the man, when he was walking out of the courtroom, he said he could hear in the courtroom the Crown going crazy at the magistrate. Do you realize what you've just done? Do you realize that we can now all be held liable for stealing this man's property? So the judge was just saying, but that's the law of this land. If some man comes forward and makes a claim that this is his property, like I said, I could claim that this right here is my property. And unless somebody comes forth and says, Carl, how do you claim it's yours? Well, I possess it. So 9/10 of the law, it's mine. And then the other man, whose property this truly is, will probably say, wait a second. No, I bought it. I have the receipt. It's like, oh yeah, let me see the receipt. Because I could say, I have a receipt. How do you know I didn't have this one in my bag? Well, this looks just like mine. Well, I possess it, so I guess we're going to have a trial by jury. So I guess our peers are going to make, what's the law of this land? Even though there's no law that literally says possession is 9/10 of the law, everybody believes, well, how did he get it if it's not his? And if nobody's got the receipt to prove otherwise, then the man who's holding it is the rightful possessor or owner of the property.
Question. The property, the Squamish Nation here, the people claim that it's their property, and the white people came and took it over, and they want it back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you resolve this?
They're not part of our culture. We don't recognize that they even exist. They're idiots as far as we're concerned. They're outsiders. Now, if they come forward and they become like as a man, and they say, I'm a man and you're a man, is that not true? I was like, yes. Then good. Then you do know that you are now on my land. It's like, this is my land. It's like, how is it your land? Well, your grandfather was taken away from his grandfather. Good. Do you have any proof of that? Is there any man who's going to come forth that says that my grandfather took it from your grandfather? How do I know for sure that your grandfather had this? So this is what I try to tell people. I actually think, you know, like a Dean guy, he might be a real passionate, nice guy, but I think the bankers and everybody's actually trying to help themselves by giving somebody like Dean all kinds of misinformation. Because if you destroy your registrations, so that's a good question that lady put up, in a public record.
We're going to take a break here in a couple minutes.
What you just referred to is happening in court right now in Nelson. The determination's on Tuesday. Exactly what you just said.
What's that?
First Nations lady's being charged for contempt of court for protecting her property.
Mm-hmm.
This ridge that we're standing beside is called Perry's Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
You're standing in the Sluchin in her traditional Tampula.
Okay.
And she's doing that in court, and she's upholding her traditional right to her property because of her usage.
Right. Usage is a huge thing.
And she's also part of the law society of her nation.
Right.
And we tried to start common law, and she went legal with it, but she's been fighting it from her heart and passionately. The judge was put on notification, and he responded fully to it. He's acting with such respect.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're not. If they know, right? They know the law. Judges aren't as dumb as you think they are. And the big thing is usage. It's the custom. It's the practice. It's the belief of the people that, you know, that written law. Let me just say that if anybody tries to whip out this written law against her, all she has to say is, who wrote it. Like when I had that enrolled law and put the law, Library of Congress. Because when they come after you, they're coming after you with a code, right? And obviously, code and law are not the same. Well, one's got 4 pictures or symbols or hieroglyphics, one's got 3, so obviously that picture's not the same as that picture, that obviously they're different. It's a code. So if they try to come after you with a piece of paper and say, what are you relying upon? And there's a section of the Canadian Act 1992 section, are you relying on a code? Is that from the Code of Canada? Yeah, well, where's the law of Canada? The law of Canada is based on the customs and beliefs of the people. This is common law land. Our law comes from the people. Our law comes from the customs of the people. Now, if you're trying to whip out a code that was codified from a public law, are you telling me that you are trying to hold or convene a lawless court? Where's your law that backs up this code? What? Where's the public law? Will you go to the Library of Congress or Library of Parliament? Will you whip out the actual public law and unroll it? It's enrolled. Will you unroll it and will you read it out and place the law before the court? Because right now you got a code before the court. When are you going to bring the law before the court? Right now you got a lawless court. And I'm bringing the law. The law is the customs of our people. And this is a common law land. And in a common law land, it's unwritten. It's based upon the traditions and the customs of the people that inhabit this section on planet Earth, like the Eskimos. If you're going to go up to their land, wherever they live up there, and you're going to say, no, this is our land, and they're going to say, well, we've been here for 10,000 years. You know, what do you mean? Well, we've been here for 10,000 years. You know, and you're going to have a trial and say, well, look, we have a piece of paper from the King of France that gave us this land back in 1801. It's like, yeah, great. And you're going to have the King of France testify that that's a true, accurate, authenticated document. And even if it is, what gave him the authority and the right? Well, the Pope did. Oh, really? And who's the Pope? Well, he's the supreme being on planet Earth. Well, I think there's a Pope in some sort of Hindu culture. There's a Pope probably in a Buddhist culture. I'm sure there's a Pope somewhere in Aboriginal culture down in Australia somewhere. There's some grand poobah down there too. So what? You know? It's just because the Pope said it, or the Grand Pope of the Aborigines. So what? Well, he's the supreme creator of all the lands of Earth. You know what? What's the customs and practices and policies and beliefs of the people? That's the law of the land.
But you said the registration public records.
Registration and public records are awesome because people, like I said, I think they find a nice, passionate guy like Dean, you know, a good-looking kid, full of heart and all this other stuff, and they just give him all this bullshit, like, oh, destroy your registrations. Well, if you destroy all the records of whose property, whose house, and whose car this is, like, say you were driving down, like I said, the people in the United States, some guy said he was going to Atlanta, and that's a pretty bad neighborhood, some places down there. What if you rip off your registration numbers, have no license plates, and take off your serial numbers out of your windshield, and your car gets stolen? What are you going to tell the cop? I have a gray Ford. Okay, what's the registration? What's the title? What's the numbers we can find it by? He said they won't be able to find it. I said no, it'll be super easy for to find it because you're the only moron on planet Earth that ripped off the serial numbers, and then they say, oh, there's the car, the only car on planet Earth without a serial number. It's going to be pretty easy to prove that's yours. I said, but seriously, if they didn't have these serial numbers on these cars, and cars were stolen, and they just changed a blue car to a green car, a red car, how are you going to prove it's your car? They're going to, because it's registered somewhere. See, these things were set up like 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago for the benefit of man. And sometimes, like say a banker or lawyers or legal system will manipulate this beautiful tool. Well, and you just got to get it back into its original benefit to man and not allow it to harm man. That's the big thing.
How is it beneficial to us to have a vehicle that's registered to the government and they can dictate when and where we can use it and how we can use it?
We'll say that we owe China a debt. Because the United States, we owe $1 trillion to China. What if China says that we're going to come by and we're going to take your car and we're going to bring it back to China? Yeah. We're going to take that because that's what we want to satisfy the debt, because we want the money. Okay, it was called reparations. It's like that's what basically started World War II. Is what happened was my family was in Germany at that time during reparations, and the French and the English wanted reparations for all the damages and all the debt that the Germans owed to the French. So the French, was smart. The French had like an intermediator who spoke German. So unfortunately for the Jewish people, they spoke German. So the German Jews were the brokers that went between France and Germany. And my family said is that these Jewish people would come into it's funny, the Jewish people would go into like the brokers would come into the German people's homes, and they would take like a clock, a cuckoo clock, or they take dishes, or they take machinery tools from the factories from the Rhineland, and they'd send them over to France for reparations for the war debt, because they didn't want German money. They didn't want green pieces of paper. They didn't want German marks. They didn't want brown pieces of paper. They wanted a tangible asset like cars, or they wanted cuckoo clocks, or they wanted something for reparations of the war debt. So the kids finally had enough of it. You know, like by the time 1930, it was like 1918, 1990. It was like, wait a second, it's been 10 years since that war. My daddy fought that war. Why are you taking my stuff? It's like, well, we still owe $1 trillion. We'll never be able to pay this off. You're going to keep doing this for us for hundreds of years. We see where this is going. You're never going to let us work down the interest. You're just taking it to cover the interest. The debt's going to stay there forever. So it was during that reparations between the wars that, to me, started World War II. It's because the German people had enough of being in debt. And just saying, why do we keep having to pay back a foreign country? We can never advance. Well, you people are advancing off of our hard work and sweat. You guys are being a bunch of lazy, you know, taking all our money. You know, why should we do it? So,
Isn't there a similar contract between France and the United States?
what do you mean? Between France and the United States?
They've got a debt that's not being paid.
Well, what I'm saying is the man said, what's the purpose of having registrations? Is so that I could claim as a man that that is my car. And now if you're saying the United States government owes China, the United States government owes France, I could say, whoa, 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 I'm not a part of the United States government. If the United States government owes you a debt, that's the debt between the United States government and China. I'm not part of the United States government. I'm a man. This is my car. Not only can I prove it, but we have it recorded with the state that is, I am the lawful owner of that vehicle. They have the title of my car. Who cares? It's just a title. I actually have the possession. It's like I said, if somebody gives you a title, they could take that title away from you anytime they want. If the Queen of England gives you a title of being a knight or a sir or a lord, and she doesn't like what you're doing, she could remove that title from you. She's not going to remove you from you. She's going to remove the title from you. So she's just going to take that title away from you and say, you know what? You'll no longer get the privilege, or you know, you don't get the benefit of having that title. But if the state of Virginia has the title of the car, they will protect my car and they'll help me obtain my car. If somebody tries to take my car wrongfully from me, the state of Virginia will make that man give it back. Just like in the Wild Wild West, a whole bunch of, like a little old lady, and you know, a husband went out there and they moved out there. The husband died. She had a herd of cattle. The bad guys come, and she runs into town and says, "Hey, the banditos took my cattle." And it's like, "Oh, you're Mrs. Jones? Yeah. Oh, you guys settled here like 40 years ago? Yeah, yeah. You register every year. You herd of cattle? Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll round up a posse and help you get those banditos gone." But if she didn't go through the registration process, she went to town and said, "The banditos got my cattle." The banditos say, "Hey, we don't know nothing about no her cattle. Those are our cattle." You know, and she's going to say, "You got any proof they're your cattle?" And she's going to be like, "Well, no." She says, "Well, why don't you come to town every year and register them? That way we go out there and protect you." But until it's their word, it's just as good as your word. Maybe just some crazy delusional old lady who's got dementia or something like that. Maybe it really is the banditos' cattle. So that's why the registration process is of great benefit to man at times. And like I said, if they try to use it against you, you just say, "Whoa, I'm not a citizen. I'm not a member of your society." Wait a second, whoa, I'm acting in private. I'm a man. No, that's my car. And nobody within the public is ever going to come forth and say it's their car. Because you're going to say Manitoba, wherever we are, BC is going to say it's their car. Does BC have vocal cords? What man in BC, when you have them summoned to appear in your court, is going to testify? If you have to go to their court, they don't need a man to testify. They just have a prosecutor, or they have a code that's just going to move their court. So when they're saying it's their car, who's saying it's their car? Well, Canada says it's their car. There's somebody named Mr. or Mrs. Canada, or is that their first name or last name? Canada saying it's their car, or British Columbia saying it's their car? Well, they better come to my court, because my court, if you're going to summon me to appear in your court, obviously I'm going to create my case, and I'm going to open my case in the same court at the same time that you're moving your case. We're going to hold both cases at the same time. We're going to open up your case, and we're going to open up my case. And is anybody from British Columbia ever going to come forth and say that that green Opel car GT is theirs? No, I'm going to say that green Opel GT is mine, and it's going to stand unrebutted, because nobody from that side is going to say it's not. The best they could say, well, he didn't pay taxes, he didn't pay this, he didn't pay that. I said, okay, that's fine, that's true, I didn't pay taxes. I'll be more glad to pay taxes. The best I could do is $5 a month for the next 10,000 months. And why am I not failing to pay taxes now? I agreed to pay taxes, like what this man did with his birds. He said, now give me back my property. And he got his property back. And he didn't register, and like I said, all he had to do was come forth and say that those are his birds. But if he came and registered the birds, yes. Would the government came then and give him a hard time? No, they wouldn't have taken his birds. But even if they take his birds because he didn't register and doing all this stuff, he still said, fine, you know what? I'm guilty of all that failure to register. I'm guilty of all that stuff. That's fine. Wonderful. You know what? Send me a bill. In the meantime, give me back my property. And he had to give him back his property.
Okay, we're gonna take a break, guys.
Before Karl loses his voice, sweats to death.
Because they basically determined how the settlers travels on the land and settlers. Right. Yeah, those original, because the way the colony in Clipper, Canada is led us to believe is that we have to listen to their side of the agreement, but not honor their side, because in their side they have the power of their language. So everything.
You got it going, Dave?
Yep.
Oh, so
Good to
go.
go.
I have going, man.
Contractually, it was nation to nation.
That's right.
Yeah, let me say the last thing.
That's why.
One of the things I brought up that people didn't understand is when I was saying, when you see in law, you see the word like property, but you don't see, and like I said, you don't really see them mention the word land. Because like I said, if you see land, and the best definition from the dictionary I could find was Webster's 1828, where it clearly said, 1, the inhabitants of a country or region, a nation or people. That's considered land. And there was a couple of sentences they gave back then. These answers in the silent night received, the king heard himself, divulged, the land believed. So it's people, or the land and the king are one, from King Arthur in southern Britain. It doesn't mean the king and the dirt are one. It means the king and the people are one. And like I say to people, somebody said natives. Well, we all came from the land. We didn't come from Mars. We didn't come from Jupiter. We all came from the land. You know, our parents ate of the land, and we grew of the land. So the land and the people are one. And if you don't believe it, guess when you die, guess where you're going to go back to? You're going to go back to the land. So like I say to people all the time, that's a good example all the time when I use the word land, soil, or dirt. If I say that people, okay, legalese, when you have to be expressed, not implied. These all basically, you could say, mean the same thing, but only this means man, or only this means people.
You gotta start with some LSD.
So, when you go through, this is what I try to say to people, and I said that in Quebec too, because I did a show in Quebec, but it took forever, because I had to have a French translator. But I asked somebody in Quebec, I said, I know in the United States that the banks can't own land and they can't loan money for land. Is that true in Canada as well? And she said in Quebec it is. It's true as well. I don't know how it is in BC, but the banks cannot loan money for land because the banks can't own land. And like I try to say to you guys, there's a lot of kumbaya stuff, because if you say that, you know, people think land, soil, dirt is the same thing, it's not. The banks can't own the people. So a lot of people don't understand that simple concept. So like I say to people, there's land. What was the other thing I was saying? Sequester, sequestration. That's what they did to the Germans. That's Catherine and Joe, plaintiff. Okay, the other man wanted me to say what we're doing with my sister with the $3,500 from Macy's. He said, hey, you never finished the story. I said, yeah, I go off on some tangent. I always forget to come back. So what happened with my sister was, when they came down, I was working on my car. This was back in 2007. So I came out from on my car, and I thought they were looking for me, obviously. You know, nobody's going to come looking for my sister. She's a school teacher. She worked at school for the deaf and the blind. So I said, hey, looking for her. So it's so funny when they came down and they said, we got a warrant in debt on your sister. I said, they got a warrant for, you know, a warrant in debt. I said, who was claiming the debt is due? They said, Macy's. I said, oh, good. Macy's is claiming the debt, you know. Good. Do you have the warrant to appear? He says, yeah. And as soon as I saw the warrant, I said, wait a second. Under what jurisdiction are you at this time? He's like, what? I said, you're under my jurisdiction, aren't you? You crossed that threshold up there. You're now on private property. You're not in public anymore, are you? He's like, no, I guess not. I said, so you know you are my guest, right? And he says, yes, sir. I said, good. Then have I ever met you? You ever met me? You know who I am? No, good. So then you know how this works. For you to appear on my land, you have to be bonded. Just in case you cause any harm or injury to my land, I require a bond of any guest when they appear on my land. So it was funny. He said to me, so whoever wrote out that warrant, whoever had that issue warrant, Macy's or Macy's attorney, tell him to put his bond upon that warrant and then come back and collect on the debt. And he's like, he went to leave. And I was like, oh no, I ain't playing this. I'm going to make sure this guy gets the rules of the game down the first time before he walks off my driveway. But most of you folks would be happy if the guy left to go get a bond, because he would have just went back to the Macy's attorney and said, this man needs a bond before we could execute the order. So funny. I'm just trying to look for something small because it was so funny. I said, yeah, well, when you get that bond, I said, and it has to be a heck of a bond, like $1 million bond. I said, and I threw a box of matches out of my pocket. I said, come back and burn this place down to the ground. I said, because whatever that bond is worth, I'm going to claim every damn penny of it. So he's not going to see a penny of that bond. So I'm going to make the full claim that anything that you do on trespass on this land caused $1 million worth of harm and injury. So, and I'm going to keep that bond. So he's like, oh, so he came up to me, he was in my face, he says, you know who I am? I said, I know exactly who you are, and you know exactly who I am, don't you? I said, you are the public servant and I am that of the public. I said, you are not on a man's land. You do know that, right? You do know whose jurisdiction controlled. You do know you are a guest. I already explained that to you. He says, you know what I could do? I said, I know exactly what you can and what you cannot do. Is the more important thing is what you can't do right now. I said, but what you can do is go get a bond. And I said, I already gave you the rules of the game. Once you give me that bond, you are never going to get it returned. I will cash it in for every penny that's on it. Believe me, I will make a claim for every dollar on that bond. So he goes to me, he says, oh, and I said, you have a judgment on her as well? Let me see the judgment. And he said, how much is the judgment for? And he said, $3,500. I said, oh, good. I said, I'm the initial lien holder, I'm the primary lien holder on all my sister's assets. So give me the judgment. I said, you know the law, first in line, first in time. Give me the judgment, because now I'm going to use that judgment to actually help collect the debt that she owes me. Still, it's like, when did you get a lien on her? I said, oh, I liened her up years ago. He says, where is it recorded? I said, right here, and I'll utter it here in any open court you wish to summons me to appear in, because this is a common law land, and only a man can testify in a common law open court. So my claim will stand true that she owes me a debt. And how much does she owe you? I said, more than she could pay me back in 3 lifetimes. So to say, thank you, Macy's, for working very diligently and getting another judgment against this deadbeat. So they'll just prove my claim is true. So he says, it was funny, he said, he says to me, he goes like nose to nose to me, he says, is this what you're going to say? Is this how we're going to play this? Is this how it's going down? I said, that's my word, and I said, I will stick it to it till the day of my die. I said, bring me to any court, and I'll say again what I said in front of you. Whatever that I said today is true, I'll hold it in any court you wish to bring me forth. And it's funny, he grabbed me by the shoulders and he said, God bless you, sir. He said, I love people who know the law. You make my job so much easier. He says, you really think I want to go into your sister's house and go into her closet and take her clothes, take her socks, take her underwear, pack it all up, put it up in storage somewhere? He said, you don't think I'd rather be chasing bad guys? He says, but I got this little pipsqueak attorney from Richmond, the capital of Virginia, calling me up every 5 minutes saying, have you executed the warrant? Have you executed the warrant? And probably nobody here knows, if the sheriff or the deputy doesn't execute the warrant, what happens to the sheriff or the deputy?
Gets fired.
They become liable for the debt because they think they're in cahoots with the person that the debt is also been, right, so they're in cahoots. So they're going to get a higher authority like the U.S. Marshals or the state or the National Guard to go into the sheriff's home, and they're going to take equal value out of the sheriff's home of what is due, my sister's due. So that's why the deputies and the sheriffs are very adamant on executing warrants because they know if they don't do it, a higher authority will come down upon their home and it'll be executed against them. So the deputy asked me that. He says, you know what's going to happen if we don't execute this warrant? I said, I know, your sheriff's in a lot of trouble. He says, yes, and obviously our sheriff does not want to be in a lot of trouble because your sister can't settle her debt. And I said, well, how much does she owe again? It was like $3,500. I said, can I see the order? He's like, yeah. I said, okay, I'll work this out. I said, does the attorney have a, did he give you a business card? He said, oh yes, right here. So he gave me the attorney's business card. And I said, I'll settle this matter with the attorney in about 15, 20 minutes. I said, my sister's in school and her phone's off, so let me run up to the school and talk to her and have her work a settlement out with the attorney. And he says, oh, that's a good idea. I said, I almost forgot, I better call the tow truck company and tell them not to take your sister's car out of the parking lot at her school. I said, yeah, she'd appreciate that. So she had a brand new Mustang convertible. She would have, in 2007, yeah, she definitely would appreciate it. She would have broke her heart. Because in Virginia, they will auction your stuff off in like 20 minutes and they'll get 3 cents for all your stuff and you still owe the $3,400, $997.97 they'll owe still. But everything, they'll execute the warrant. So they move like lightning in Virginia. It's a great state to live in, a commonwealth to live in.
Would that work in criminal matters if someone appeared with a criminal warrant?
It depends, like I said, if they got extradition treaty, if they have an agreement to actually come into somebody else's land or somebody else's province or country or territory, yeah, then sure. Like that's why the Indians do a lot of nonsense and they run back to their reservations because there's no extradition treaties. So it depends. So like I said, somebody asked me to have my sister, and yes, did I know that I could tell her, like pay off like, you know, 0.35 cents a day for the next million days? You better believe I could have told her to do that. I've known this stuff since I've been a kid. My mom worked for the IRS since 1972, and my dad couldn't write English. He was German, so everything he knew was like these simple man. He knew how to handle things very quick, very fast, black and white, just like a very simple person knows how to do my stuff incredibly quickly because they're not encumbered by all this colorful language and they just see things crystal clear. It's you guys who have these colorful languages and that blocks you from seeing what I do so quickly. So like I said, when I got to my sister's school, I said I had a nice encounter with because what's funny is this, the last thing the deputy said to me before I asked him for the number, I said, you know what? He says, do you live here? I said, no. I said, my folks got a farm up the road. I'm just helping my sister here. And he says, you going to be here tomorrow? I said, maybe. He said, but what happened? You're not here and your sister's here alone. And they send it to another deputy who doesn't know the law as well as I do. This deputy was really good with the law. He says, my sister's probably going to crap her pants, beg for mercy, and you're going to tase her, and he's going to take everything out of her house. He said, absolutely. I said, yeah. I said, where's that? Does the attorney have a business card? He said, yes. I said, I'll settle this real quick with him. So I went to the school and I said to my sister real quick what happened. And I told her, I said, look, you got the $3,500 to pay him? And he's like, well, no. I said, okay, can you make like 3 payments of $1,000? And she's like, no. Can you make payments of $700 a month for 5 months? And she's like, no, it's got to be kind of close. She was like crunching the numbers. I said, how about $350 for 10 months? And she said, okay, I could do that. And like I said, if anybody ever checks my background, I've never even applied for a credit card in my life, nor a mortgage, because I've known this nonsense my whole life, that bankruptcy is a joke. It's easy for me to do. And it's easy for me to pay a third, a percent of a penny for the next 10 billion years. And as long as their books balance, they're not going to come after me and they have no claim. So could have I said that to my sister? Could have I said, you know, pay, you know, instead of paying $350 for 10 months, could I said to her, do it for 100 months at $35 or 1,000 months at $3.50? Absolutely. So the man Gus that I'm helping, his girlfriend did that, and she decided to do it this route. And it was funny. The attorney for the credit card company said, "No way, honey." Before the court started, she said, "No way. We're not going to accept $10 a month. Like it ain't going to happen. Like 33 cents a day. We're not going to take it, honey. Not only we're not going to ask for it, you're going to give us an extra $4,500 for court costs." So she was like, she's still stuck with this. It's funny, when I met her, I met them at a Brazilian buffet. It was good food. But she said to me, "Can I help you?" You know, she said, "Can you help me?" I said, "What's your problem?" So I wrote on a napkin what she should write to the court. I said, "There you go." Just put in, you know, a nice piece of paper and put it in. So then now his girlfriend's a believer, because when they went to court, the attorney tried to settle with everybody before the court, and when the court opened up, she put that piece of paper in front of the judge, and the attorney still insisted on the entire amount that she owed plus $4,500, and the judge said, well, she gets to pay $10 a month, and she called up Gus when I was in Virginia when he was staying at my house, because he's going to help me put the training DVDs together. And now she's like, oh wow, that nonsense really worked, because I'll have it paid off in like 22 years and like 8 months, you know. So I was like, okay, you know, I said, you know, if you want to actually extend it for 22 years and 8 months, that's fine. And some people are happy with that. They don't care, you know, they don't care if, and like I said, it's funny if the corporations are paid, as long as their books balance out, that's all that really matters. Because they're not suffering, you know, that nobody's not going home without food. And that's why I warn people, you got to be very careful when you're a corporation, when you try to go up against the man, when you want to claim a debt is due. Because I, as a man, could claim that you owe me a debt, and my community will get together, and we will go into your home, and we will take, you know, $5,000 worth of your possessions, and we will pay me off immediately. But a corporation, like I said, they're under the control of man, and as long as you're coming in as a man, they have to take whatever you give them. Like, you know, same thing with, like, say, God, you know, if you just have to take what he gives you. You know, you can complain all you want, but you can't actually force him to do anything. So then somebody else asked me during the break about a title, and I think all these title nonsense is all silly, because back in I'm trying to remember, it was 72 or 73, they stripped Muhammad Ali of his heavyweight boxing title. And just because a government agency and a board, you know, corporate board, stripped the man of being the heavyweight champion of the world, every single man and woman on planet Earth knew Muhammad Ali was the heavyweight champion of the world. So the customs, practices, and, you know, the beliefs of the people, we all knew he was still number one. And they kept trying to put other people in his place, and we all knew that the guy was a joke. You know, he was never going to be, you know, number one. We all knew who's the rightful owner of the title, heavyweight champion of the world. So you could call it or strip it of the title all you want, but we all knew it was true. And then when he did come back and he did win the title again, everybody's like, see, we told you. You could strip the man of his title, but everybody still knew what he really truly was. So like I said, if somebody gives you a title or grants you a title, it can be taken away. And like I said, what happened with me and Bali in court, Bali wanted to put a witness on the stand. Farmer Charlie. Farmer Charlie's the guy who gave me that English border collie, and he's a productive border collie. He's already going to have puppies and three females already where I live. So he's doing his job. But Farmer Charlie wanted him to witness what happened between the Punjabis and the county police, state police, provincial police, whatever you guys call them up here. So the Crown barrister said, no, according to Rule 17B, he has to make a application to the court for 30 days of all the witnesses that he's going to bring forth in the trial. And the judge realized that I had a claim before the court, and he was looking at the criminal complaint against the Punjabis at the same time. So the judge knew it wasn't exclusive, the rules weren't exclusive to the Crown anymore. Now that there were two sets of rules that the judge had to abide by. Say he had to abide by the rules of basketball and the rules of baseball. There was two different games going on here. So we wished to place the witness to testify, you know, and they wished that we could not place the witness before the court to testify. Well, no, they maintained the position under Rule 17B. So this barrister kept trying to explain to the judge, you do know the rules. Like, this is the rules of the court. And he didn't realize it's like, this is the rules of the court, but we have the rules of that court going on as well. So you had that court and this court going on. There was two different courts going on, and that poor barrister, he didn't realize there was two courts going on at the same time. He thought it was one court. He thought it was just his case that was being moved that day. He didn't realize, because even at the end of the trial, he said, but common law is dead. How did you do this? I said, well, obviously it's not dead, and you need a little bit of studying. But what was funny is, Farmer Charlie, the barrister, I mean, he was great. I mean, he was shaking the bar. He was spouting out for the judge. You know, if we don't abide by rules, we have these rules, these civil procedure code and rules. They must be maintained. They are rigid. You can't decipher it. You can't use your own opinion. You have to abide by these rules. This is expressly how we play. 30 days, not 29, not 29 and a half. Everybody within this legal society, we all know that the legal society will collapse if we don't all abide by these rigid rules. And you're going to have like a chain effect, and it's going to destroy this whole legal society and everything we've done for 1,000 years if you don't abide by the rules. So the poor barrister didn't realize the judge is like, well, I'm going to overrule it in favor of, you know, what they wish for, to have their witness appear. So you can see the poor barrister's like, there's like, that's the end of civilization as far as he knows it. It was the end of the world. I mean, the guy was flipping his wig. I mean, the guy was getting adamant, you know. I mean, he kept, you know, like I said, he actually was literally keep pulling his wig back on because he was thrashing the boss, saying, Judge, listen to me, pay attention, you're missing Rule 17B. And he was like yelling at the judge. It was funny. I couldn't believe the judge didn't say, you know what, just calm down. So the judge overruled him 3 times, and then he said, the judge said to Balraj and the Punjabis, he says, do you want me to place the witness on the stand? And what do you think Bali and them said? They said, yes. And I said, Bali said, stop. He says, what? I said, no. I said, you want of no man, God provides all. I require of you to place my witness on a stand. If you don't do your job, I will place my witness on the stand, and my witness will testify on my behalf. I want of no man. So what was funny is the judge realized in what he was doing. Because if somebody asks you, do you want me to do something? It's like asking mommy. You know, it's like, mommy, I want a drink of water. Or mommy, I want a lollipop. Mommy could say, denied. Mommy could say, nope, it's not true. I'm not giving it to you. I'm not giving it to you. So when you require of the judge, what you're doing is you're saying to him to demand, to ask as of right and by authority. We require a person to do a thing and require a thing to be done. So when you require something, it's not request, because you're requesting something that's like asking somebody to do something. And if you're asking somebody, hey, can you do this for me? They say, not at this time. So you require them. When you require of a person, the judge is a person, he's not a man at that time. He's acting as a person within a society. He has certain duties and obligations to abide by a certain set of rules. So you can't say you require a man to do a thing. No, you require a person to do a thing. So a person and a man obviously is not the same. So like when the government says something, the government can request of you. The government can't require of you. So when you see something in your paperwork saying, well, we require of you, it's like, are you talking to me, you as a plural, or you as a singular? How are you addressing me? Do you believe I only exist in the form of a person which you have authority over, but you have no rights to control? Now, governments have authority, but governments have no rights. Man has rights. Government has authority. Government has obligations, duties, and responsibilities, and they're chartered, and they're contracted, and it's in a rigid form. It's expressed. Man has rights. Man has property. And that's the number one thing that you always hear these people going on about. It makes you kind of laugh, because the very first thing that people try to convince people of is that we don't own anything. A lot of these people go on and on and on. I hear some talk show people say, well, no, I don't believe that the people own anything, like it's all belongs to God or something like that. I mean, I forget what that spiel that you hear, but you hear that stuff, like we don't own anything. I know you guys have heard that, right? We don't own anything, right? And it's the very first, what's that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, but why do they say you don't own anything?
Because as soon as you do register something, you're giving up your ownership, and that's why it's being regulated.
Yeah.
And if you die, you can't take it with you. So
you're only here for a limited time.
Right, so that's the very first plank of the Communist Manifesto, is the abolishment of private property. They don't want you to believe you own anything. Like I said, communism in one form is a beautiful thing, because it's like Jesus, it's communal, it's communion, it's everybody gets together and we all going to take these 2 loaves of bread and these 3 fish, and we're going to feed 1,000 people. Well, you know and I know, they're all going to be dead in 24 hours, and you think everybody's going to get a crumb and anything's going to come of that. It's a ridiculous concept. To me, I want to capitalize on the situation right now. What we got 2 loaves of bread and 3 fish. What we're going to do is, we're going to find the 2 or 3 best men here out of these 1,000 people, and we're going to give it to those 2 or 3 best men. who are either great hunters or great fishermen, and they're going to go out in that boat and they're going to bring us back 10,000 fish. So we're going to give all our supplies to this man or these 2-3 men, and they're going to go out there and hunt and get us a buffalo and bring it back. Instead of eating crumbs, we're going to feast on buffalo tonight, or we're going to feast on a boatload of fish. But to think that we're going to feed 1,000 people with a crumb and a lick on the side of a piece of fish, and somehow that makes sense for our survival as a community, is ridiculous. So communal living sounds nice until you realize that the odds of it actually working is pretty slim in a time of crisis, in a time of scarcity. But in time of plenty, sure. So like I always say to people, we got a nice balance, like in the United States. To me, it's like we got like a semi-communist country and a semi-capitalist country. And capitalize means to take advantage over somebody else who's less fortunate. Capitalize over the situation. Like if you're willing to work 40 hours a week and I'm willing to work 50, obviously I'm going to get a job and you're not. They're going to take me over you because I'm willing to capitalize on that. And you say, hey, that's not fair. What about your quality of life? It's like, well, I'd rather have a job than quality of life. And say that's not fair. So like I said, in a lot of these cultures, like in the United States, it's nice. We got the government, we try to keep them from encroaching too far on the rights of man. So we push back. So like I said, and I try to push back, and I try to tell people all the time, like when I talk to U.S. Marshals, I said, obviously, I have to push you guys back with paper. Obviously, I can't push you guys back violently or physically because there's a million more of you waiting outside that door for me. And obviously, if I thought I was going to shoot my way out here, my gun's going to jam eventually, it's going to overheat. Obviously, you got more bullets and guns than me, I'm going to perish. So I'm not stupid enough to think I'm going to take you guys on with force other than through the force of paper, pen, and ink. So I said, that seems to be my best approach, and it seems to be working quite well, because these people in the legal society, everything to them is rigid. Everything is on paper. Everything is in writing. Everything is bound by certain rules. And they live and eat this stuff. Because to me, these people are word nerds. This is like the revenge of the nerds. They've been picked on their whole lives. Now they got positions of authority, and they think they have power over you, and they're going to control you. It's like when I saw that movie, my sister said to me, she said, you got to relax a little bit. Let's watch Fast and Furious 5. And before even the credits rolled, the beginning scene comes out where that Vin Diesel, whatever his name is, he's all in shackles and chains, and he comes before the judge, and he says to the judge says, it's the order of the court that you spend 15 to 20 years in federal correctional facility, federally, violated this. And at any time, why didn't Vin Diesel show beyond a shadow of a doubt that little pipsqueak judge had control over him, because all he did was turn around and walked off with the U.S. Marshals. So before the credits even rolled, it's funny, if you watch that movie, you'll see the credits didn't even roll. The title of, nothing even happened. It started, the scene started that. And I hit pause. And I said to my sister, I said, when he, hey.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you.
Sorry, folks.
No, I'm going to stick the microphone in. I'll get you. Not too bad. So before it even started, the judge, I said to the judge, it's the order of the court. Why didn't Vin Diesel say, I haven't received the bond. I haven't received compensation yet. Who's placing this order? With the court. The court's placing, who's the court? Because I never consented to jurisdiction and control over. You know you were speaking to a man this whole time, right? I made it perfectly clear in my initial offering to the court that this is a man that is before you. Is there another man who's going to claim I've done wrong? I will appear as a man, and I have the right as a man in this society to appear in a court of law and have the accuser brought forth to make his claim that I've done wrong. And at this point, no man has yet to come forth. Some ridiculous federal United States code has been uttered into the record by somebody who has no right to even stand in court, called the prosecutor. Nobody has taken that stand and testified under oath or affirmation that anything they're saying is true.
No standing.
There's nobody who came to this court has standing. So, if it's the order of the court, who's the court? I'm not a participant of this court. I don't accept the title of as defendant. So, who's the court? And if the order of the court is, 15 years in jail, well, I'm going to require $1 million a year for compensation for carrying out your order. I'll be glad to carry out your order. Just compensate me, fair and justly. And I'm going to need the money up front, because honestly, I have no idea who you are. I have no prior business association agreements with you. I need the cash up front. because that happened in Indiana. There was this family that brought me out there to run John Deere plants. And when the two brothers came and met me in Virginia, I said, I'll do the show as long as this brother, he's a very violent militant guy, stays out of my face the whole entire time in Indiana, or I'll leave. Because he's just very militant and he writes all this manifesto stuff. I said, I can't be bothered with this stuff. I said, you guys do exactly what I tell you to do or I'm going. So they agreed, and his brother tried to say, I done jail time, I'm a tough guy. I said, look, I don't care who you are. I said, I'm telling you, I see you in my face, I'm going to keep your money and I'm leaving. I said, he ain't getting it back. So they didn't show his face, but it was funny. He finally got picked up on a $50,000 bond. And the very first thing he did when he got brought in there, he was listening to my 36-hour whatever, little training DVDs I did in Indiana. And the very first thing it says, well, it's the order of the court that you be held for $50,000 bond. And he says, he said to the judge, I hope you have your checkbook ready. The judge was like, why? Because the court's going to order me, I'm going to require compensation. So you got your checkbook ready to carry out that order? So he said the judge got up and left, and the sheriff's department that brought him in said, I've never seen a judge just leave. And the judge left, and he never came back in. He's like, where'd he go? He's like, I don't know, I've never seen a judge. You know, and then the guy said, hey, you know, that guy called, you better get him back down to Indiana, because, you know, this is pretty good stuff. But that's all he knew how to say, is like, if that's your order of the court, I'm going to require compensation. I hope you got your checkbook ready, because, you know, I hope you're ready to pay me, and I'll be glad to carry out the order of the court. Because I say to people, I love being ordered around. Because when you work at McDonald's or something like that, when you come to the drive-thru window, the lady says, can I take your order? Because when you give an order, everybody knows when you get to the window, you're going to have to give fair and just compensation before you get the product. They're not going to give you your hamburger and say, I hope you like it, and then pay for it. No. They're going to come to the window, they're going to say, hey, fair and just compensation, that'll be $10, please. I say, okay, good, now here's your hamburger. You know, so they're not going to make any money unless they're ordered to perform a service or produce a product. So I did this one time, and the man Jimmy Lynn came down from Texas to meet me after work 2 different ways. A traffic stop worked 2 different ways for him. And I said, look, there's like 3 or 4 different ways you could handle traffic stops. He says, okay, give me one. I said, okay, here's the first one. And he carried out the first one. So he was listening to my CDs the whole day, he said. So he got pulled over by a cop, and the Texas Ranger down there. And the ranger said to him, license registration. And he says, is that an order? He said, absolutely. And he handed him his license registration. He says, I'm going to search the vehicle, get out of the car. He says, is that an order? He says, absolutely. He got out of the car. He says, step to the back of the van. I'm going to search the back of the van now. He says, is that an order? He says, absolutely. And then he says, put your hands on my car. I'm going to open up the back doors, and I'm going to have my back turned. You put your hands on my roof, my hood of my car. And Jimmy just started busting out laughing. And the officer said to him, what's so funny? He says, oh, I'm jacked up on Carl. He said, this is exactly what Carl said you would do, that you're just carrying out orders and it's nothing personal. That this officer has a job, a duty, and a responsibility and obligation to those in the public to perform. And when he carries out his orders for those 5 days that he's an officer, he's going to be fairly and justly compensated on Friday. I said, so, why don't you help him in his duties, obligation, and his performance? Why don't you just carry out his orders? And when you carry out his orders, why don't you just require fair and just compensation for complying with the orders? If he wants to believe that he's got control over you, let him believe that. So what's funny, Jimmy said to the officer, he says, well, this is exactly what Cole said, that you're doing this because you're ordered to do it. You're ordered into the squad car. You're ordered to patrol this precinct. You were ordered by your shift commander, who was ordered by the lieutenant, who was ordered by, gets his orders from the captain, who gets his orders from the commissioner. And on Friday, you guys are all fairly and justly compensated. So guess what? Has this traffic stop been pleasant so far, Mr. Officer? He said, well, yeah. I said, I'm carrying out all your orders? Yeah. And you carried out your shift commander's orders? Right. So when Friday comes and you get my invoice for carrying out all your orders, you're going to fairly and justly compensate me, correct, sir? So he said, the officer just looked at him and dropped all the paperwork on the ground and said, get out of here, you're scaring me. So when Jimmy left, I said, Jimmy, why didn't you say, is that an order for me to leave? He said, oh, I missed that one, didn't I? I said, yes. Anything that comes out of their mouth, just like the lady at McDonald's, is that extra onions, sir? Good. You place more on the order. It's more. Anytime they open their mouth, ask for fair and just compensation. And this worked over in New Brunswick, Canada. Another man had me on a show over there. It's Jonathan Jesse, the folks that got their kids back, those guys. and he started his own show. So a guy called up and said, "Hey, this call stuff worked." He says, "I got arrested for drinking and driving on Saturday, and every time I went into the he went into a jail cell, I asked him, is that an order? Or I went for photos, they said, is that an order? So every time they were asking thumbprint, finger, every time they're saying, is that your order, is that your order, is that your wish, is that your order?" And they said yes. So on Monday, he says, I went back to the precinct that I was arrested in, and I found the supervisor, and I gave it to the Crown prosecutor, my bill for $5,000. And he said the next day all the charges were dropped against him, and they're just hoping I go away and I don't try to execute the invoice that I allowed to pass, that I'm just going to be happy that the charges are dropped. And he says, but I want to collect on the $5,000. And I said, well, tell that man if he tries to collect on the $5,000, I'll show the cop how not to, or how to pay back that $5,000 on a penny a day for the next 5,000 years. I said, because the cops are going to be scared out of their minds that every time they see a drunk driver weaving down a road, that if a clown like you is going to stop them and charge them $10,000 and you have the right to go from point A to point B, that he's going to be fined, you know, that you're going to invoice him for $5,000. He's just going to call up all his friends and family on a cell phone and say, hey, are you on Highway 11? You better get off because there's some crazy guy just driving like this, but why didn't you stop him? I'm not going to get fined for $5,000. That happened to me last time. I'm not going to interfere with any moron's right to go from point A to point B. If he wants to kill himself, let him kill himself, but let's get everybody else off the road in front of him, because we're not going to interfere with this man's right to go from point A to point B anymore, because I'm not going to get stuck with a $5,000 bill. So I said to them, I said, you guys got to understand, you know, I wouldn't want to be a cop that somebody like kicks like a black kid in the behind and I get sued for $5,000. It's like, oh, what did you want me to do? He's like, well, you should have just let him, you know, rob that little old lady. You should have done it procedurally. You should have, whatever, read him his rights. I was like, oh, geez. You know, this job is too much. You know, they're going to get good people who are just going to say, you know what, I ain't going to be a cop no more. This is too much litigation for me. I just want to do my damn job. Just like I said, the deputy said, he said, you think we really want to go in your sister's house and take all her tissues and underwear and toilet paper? We don't want to do this stuff to little old ladies. You know, we just want, you know, but this is our job. This is getting ridiculous. We just want to go chase bad guys, real bad guys. So, like I said, the big thing with the private property is that they try to tell you folks that it's an evil thing. And like I said, when they took my kid a couple of days after he was born, the very first thing we said, because first we met nice ladies from a Baptist hospital that asked us if we needed any help with the kid because he's going to be permanently disabled because he had Down. So I was like, oh, okay, no, we got this covered. And folks got a Jehovah's Witness church on their farm. We're fine. We got thousands of little ladies that'll help us. We don't need any help, thank you anyway. And then they asked if, and then they left. And then two other women came in, and they said, well, yeah, you know, we need you to sign some paperwork. And I was like, paperwork for what? It's like, well, the child's going to need Medicaid and Social Security. He said, no, he doesn't. I said, that's why he's got a family. We don't need no centralized government at this point. When we do, believe me, we'll let you know. So it was funny. They said to me, but you don't understand. You know, he's going to be permanently disabled. You could actually collect money, like $30,000 to $40,000 a year, just watching him take care of your own kid. And I was like, thank you, man, but no thank you. That sounds like so evil in so many ways, it's not even funny. So it's funny, they said they kept insisting that it would be in the best interest of the child. I said, ma'am, are you a government agent? He's like, are you here in official capacity, or are you like representing another church or something? He's like, oh no, we're here in government capacity. I said, well, you do know that the government is not allowed to solicit a man. You do know that. You know, you can't come to me with an offer. You know that's so illegal. It's not even funny. Even your own code book, under the Social Security or Medicaid Act, 672 or 472 or subsection F, you can't approach us. We have to approach you. So what are you doing again? He's like, well, you know, if you don't cooperate with us, the judge won't like it. I said, well, F you and F whatever judge, but you know what? We don't require anything of this centralized government at this time. I said, the only thing I can tell you ladies is we're going to leave the hospital now. It's 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning before I go to work. We're gonna feed that child one more time. My property better lie where I leave it. And they said, property? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just called him property. I said, what? What do you think he is? He's like, oh, he's your child. I said, what? No, he's my property. Child is a subset or subcategory of what I claim as my property. I have property, my rights are my property, my hopes, my dreams, my aspirations are my property, my truck outside is my property. Hey, as a matter of fact, the mother of my child down there at the other table, she's my property. And a black lady and white lady, like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. I said, what? I said, hey woman. She said, what? She said, am I your property? She said, you better believe you're my property. I said, there you go. I said, we have an agreement that she and me were exclusive to all others within a society that only we can enjoy, that we exclude all others from society from encroaching upon our, right to private property. I said, so what makes you think that property is an evil word? She was like, well, slaves. I said, well, first of all, slaves is written different, so obviously it's implied that slaves are property. It's not expressed. And obviously, if you knew Roman law, slaves have a higher standing in court than a citizen, because a citizen bound himself voluntarily to the state, to the government. A slave is a free man who's captured, and his duty and obligation is try to escape from the state that enslaved him or captured him. So a slave actually had higher standing in Roman court than a citizen did. The citizen was obligated and duty bound to abide by the rules. A slave had no knowledge of the rules, and he was like, I'm an idiot. So yeah, I guess we can't hold him liable. He's a slave from, wherever. So what does he know about our rules and customs? So a slave actually could get away with stuff in Roman law that a citizen couldn't, because a citizen is obligated to abide by the rules of society, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of the societal law in which you agree to abide by. Like if you're a member of the Moose Lodge Society, the Boy Scout Jamboree Camp Society, you are obligated to be bound by those rules of that society. So if you don't, that society has the right to impose upon you, to make you perform in a certain way or punish you. So like I said, the other thing I wanted to talk about, let me see, I forgot what that word was. Land, we got that. Sequestration. We did that. Oh, there you go. They were talking about the folks in BC with the, stuff in their closet, growing stuff. And I said to them, everybody knows, especially the court, especially the legal society, they understand the law of England. And they understand that this is how the trial by jury, operates in Canada and in England. I said to them that the plaintiff must appear at some time before the verdict is rendered. There can't be no verdict without a plaintiff. So it's very simple. It just says the old law, he is, it just says an order for the amendment to which by the old law he said is liable. What an amendment means is just a fine, a penalty, like how much money he has to pay out in case he fails in the suit. The plaintiff has to appear as a punishment for his false claim. So if he wanted the guy to pay $10,000 and he picked out the wrong guy, he picked me. It's like, I told you I wasn't the right guy. I told you that was the guy over there. Oh yeah, I guess it was. So not only do you have to not pay you $10,000, you have to also pay me. And punitive damages is when the court says, look, Carl, this guy put you through a lot. Not only are we going to give you $10,000, we're going to give you $30,000 on top of that. So you'd never ask for punitive damages. The court awards you punitive damages. So when I see these people making these claims for $500 billion, it's like, you better be able. A man can only claim what is due. So you better have proof, like bills, receipts, something that says that, it cost me 10 days of work. That was $300 a day. That's $3,000. You can't claim more than what's due. If the court awards, punitive damages because of the outrageous behavior or filing false claims against you or destroying your name or your reputation or your standing within the community, they can award you punitive damages, but you can't say, and I want $10 million because he hurt my feelings. You better have something like tangible, or you could actually show that my standing or loss happened in the community. So like I said, the big thing with Joe, what they were saying up in Williams Lake area, it says if the plaintiff does not appear, no verdict can be given. The plaintiff is to be set in non-suit. So this is what I tell people all the time. I said, in an administrative court, their rules are whatever they wish them to be. Everything is just moving on paper, back and forth on paper. There doesn't actually physically has to be a defendant. There doesn't physically have to be a plaintiff to appear. Everything's in writing. It's two-dimensional. Everything's on paper. So if you don't evoke the court to move in a third dimension as well, to work in the common law and have man on man, they're just gonna keep moving with their administrative proceedings against you, their administrative, trials, hearings, whatever they wanna call it. So like I said, at the end of Bali's trial, what are those folks called? Not Hindis, the Punjabi's trial. It was funny. At 3 o'clock, the judge started reading the ruling of the court. It was count one. Harassment, guilty as charged. Crown versus Jones, 1992. Crown versus Susie. And then he'd give the opinion of that court. Then he'd go to like Crown versus Charlie, 2011. He'd give that opinion. So it's funny, the barrister and all the solicitors, they're just attorneys and prosecutors, were just writing like crazy. All these notes that the judge was giving out, all this, because during an hour and a half break before the ruling, the judge was making his opinion of the court. So he was doing a lot of research, and he was just giving all these opinions of the court. So the barrister and the solicitors said, oh good, next time we have a harassment trial, we're going to use this. Next time we have a stalking, a communicating threat, terrorism case, we're going to use these citations that this judge is giving us now. Great, this is wonderful. So it was like count two, stalking, count guilty as charged. What they did was illegal according to English code, and Crown versus Terry, Crown versus Taylor. So terrorism, guilty as charged. Illegal activity, according to the Crown code, So funny. The Punjabis looked at me and they said to me, "I hope this has a happy ending, because this sounds really bad." So I said, just wait, guys, just wait. He hasn't gotten to the common law side of the case. So that went from 3 o'clock until 3:40. And then at the last 5 minutes, the judge said, now for the common law side of the case. And he says, this has been the most bombastic, idiotic. And I said, oh, yes, we're going home. I said, I'm going to go. I said, we got something to talk on a TV show tomorrow. I said, wow, this is great. I'm going to be a star on TV. Yay. Bali, you're going home. Tell all your friends we're going home. And he's like, what? I said, he said, he called us idiots. I said, thank the Lord, sweet Jesus. I was waiting for that magic word. So he was like, I missed, like I said, for about 40 seconds of the rest of what he was saying. And he just says the case is Bali said to me, he said, well, I know the difference between dismissed and discharged. If he says discharge, can I object and can I say dismissed? And if he says dismissed, can I object and say, no, it should be discharged? So that when the judge said all 5 charges against the 3 defendants are discharged. So I was like, damn, I don't even get to say anything in this trial. He said, I knew to object. I said, go ahead, you could object if he says dismissed. But he said discharge. I said, wow, I haven't seen a ruling for discharge since like the 1950s. And I said, it was funny because the Punjabi started to applaud. I said, knock it off, you morons. I said, we're still in court. The judge could just say, oh, did I say discharge? I meant guilty as charged. Sorry about that. I said, you better just keep it in your pants and wait till you get home to celebrate. I said, I don't know what you Punjabis do when you're happy, but don't do it here. I said, proper decorum, gentlemen. And like I said to them, I said, Bali says, well, why is discharge so amazing? And I looked at the Crown and the judge was still there, and it's like, that means that they were asking for you, they made a false claim. You could ask of them. He's like, what does that mean? I said, do you wish for the Crown? He's like, what? Do you wish to make a claim for the Crown? He says, I could do that? I said, oh, absolutely. I said, but what would you do with it? He said, you don't even know what it is, do you? He said, no, not really. I said, look, and if you do make a claim, I'll help these guys beat you. I said, trust me. I said, no, what we're going to do is the Crown now is going to respect the Punjabis because the Punjabis know how to move a court. And the Crown is never going to come up with these nonsense charges against you folks ever again. So you guys are going to live now in England in peace, and you're going to get along whether you like it or not. Because if you do this to them again, I'll show them how to make a claim for the Crown. So it was a lot of fun, So I had a good time in court. And but the only charge I didn't get Bali those people out of was a parking ticket. So yeah, because I knew they could handle that, and they're still scared to move that claim into a Queen's bench. To move the claim for the parking ticket. But the big ones I got rid of for him, but the little one I left. They said, we're not going to work on that. We're going to let them stay that for 6 months, and you could work on that. I said, but I'll take care of the big ones for you.
So Karl, the plaintiff must appear in the common law court.
Oh yeah.
in the defendant court,
Well, the reason-
the plaintiff doesn't matter unless you...
In an administrative court.
Yeah, so
In administrative, right.
you were saying at one point that you could play the defendant right up to the end and then say, oh, actually, you know what, I'm a man right now.
Well, what it is, right, no, what it is, I played the defendant, and I said, I accept everything they said, that,
Yeah.
like I said, here, I'll play the defendant thing for you guys right here. Because you could actually see where a man did it in open court. And instead of me just giving you an example, thank God people all over the world are starting to do this stuff. It's funny how I got known in Quebec, is I got like a fan base in Croatia, and they called the folks in Quebec and said the man's coming to Canada, catch him. And they're like, but we don't speak English. And they were like, just stop him when he comes through. So it was funny, they hooked me up with an English-speaking lady. So I did a show over there in Quebec, and the lady translated, so it was a lot of fun. But like I said, my stuff was being heard in Croatia, you know, because it was on that English TV show. So yeah, I think it's pretty funny. But it's starting to catch on, and it's a lot of fun. That people understand how simple this stuff is. But this is, like I said, where the man agreed. I'm the defendant. I agree, and within your society, everything I'm doing is illegal, and you can impose a fine, a penalty. You know what? Fine. I'll take your fine. I'll take your penalty. I'll take whatever you guys want to dish out to me. Fine. What's the? Just send me a bill. Just give me the bill. Oh, after you give me the bill, they're right. Did I accept it? Yeah. Now you act honorably and give me back my property. And they had to give him back his property. How could they say no when he was so nice and he said yes to everything? They had to say yes too.
What you're doing works, you know. Mr. Daly, can you say that again? Because I want Gus to hear this. Hey Jimmy, yeah, come here a second too. I want you to hear this too. This is Mr. Daly, the man I'm helping out in Canada with the birds. Go ahead, tell him what happened in Quebec. Okay, last week in rural Quebec, a fellow that obtains some birds of prey had them without a license, got charged with not having birds without a license. He said, fine, I'll pay my fine. And he told him the amount of the fine, and he said, fine, I'll pay that. And then when there was a break in the discussion with the judge, he said, I require and order the immediate restoration of my property. And he never said another word. Dead silence in the courthouse. The magistrate there, we call him a Quebecer, so this is somebody who thinks that it's Napoleonic code. Right. But he told them that
Can you hear this right?
the Crown
No, can you turn up loud your microphone?
return the man's property immediately.
Because I don't think anybody else could hear it.
Can you guys hear it?
So we're getting this
Yeah, turn it up, man.
put it into English, and then get the court record of it so we can send
Hopefully
it
as
to
loud
you.
as it gets.
And you've got some written evidence that what you're doing, even with somebody who doesn't understand it fully. Right. But he was good enough to only say what he was told to say and not ramble. He just said, I require an order, the immediate restoration of my property. The magistrate then, there was dead silence in this courthouse, I guess. And he turned to the Crown prosecutor and he said, return the man's property forthwith. Immediately or something like that. Whatever it was in French. That's what happened to the lady in New Brunswick. That's what happened to the lady in New Mexico. And I was just discussing that with Gus. Gus is from Quebec. He's standing right here. He's the man. He's saying it real quick. Hey, Mr. Daly, how are you? Very good, thanks. Hello? Hi. I'm from, you speak French? No, I'm not a Quebecer. It just was somebody I knew did business with somebody in Quebec. And the Quebec body or the police services there, they're charging for keeping birds without a license. So he went in, he agreed, he found out where to pay his fine, said yes, I'll pay it forthwith. And then when there was a lull in the case there, the communications, he said, I require and order the immediate restoration of my property, period. And the fellow never said another word. This is all in French, of course, in the country. And the magistrate, the whole courtyard just went silent, dead. The magistrate then turned to the Crown prosecutor and said, return the man's property immediately. Right, because that's what I was trying to tell Gus, and I don't know if Jimmy might benefit from this. But if you're holding somebody, say somebody leaves property, like I don't know, one of your employees, or somebody leaves their stuff, their belongings on your property, and they owe you rent or they owe you money, you can't hold their property. If you go to court, well, you can until you go to court. What's going to happen is the judge is going to say that. The kid is going to say, property, but he wants me to, in the deal. I said, well, I want him to give me $3,000 he owes me first. And the judge was going to say, no, you give him back his property immediately, then you file a claim for the payments. But no, if it's property, it has to go back to the proper owner immediately, no matter how much debt is due.
Well, I guess after this took place and they concluded, there was a big rampage going on out in the hall in this Quebec courthouse. With everybody out in the hallway, they started yelling at each other because the potential liability.
Oh yeah, so it's the issue with theft. Oh yeah, that's what I said with the lady in New Brunswick, Canada. They said the Crown prosecutor said all 20 affidavits were removed from the court case file. All the police, all the social workers, everybody who worked for the Crown, everybody removed their name from the case because you just reported a theft, and they're all going to be held liable. So everybody removed their name from the case. They're all pulled down at different time.
I'll get all these transcripts transcribed into English and send them to you so you've got them just in your back pocket.
That's good.
For evidence that what you're saying actually works. Because you couldn't have better evidence of that with somebody who didn't really know what they're doing.
Right, exactly. Well, like I said, that lady...
He didn't say more than he needed to.
That's right, the lady who got tacos for a living in New Mexico, she spoke barely any English. I was only able to talk to her for maybe less than 10 minutes. I just said, can you say, I require restoration property? I require property? And she says, I said, I require property? Yes, I require restoration property. So we practiced a couple times. I said to her husband, who spoke perfect English, boyfriend, I said, work with her. Just get her to say these 2-3 sentences and tell her to say nothing else. And that's the episode where it was only 43 minutes long, where the husband said she just said it a couple times in open court, and she was drunk, and she beat up cops. She still had criminal charges on her, and she still got her child back immediately. The judge said, you know the law, to the Attorney General, restore her property. And he said, the Attorney General said, but Your Honor, he says, and I restore it now. And the kid ran across the courtroom and came to the mom, the 3-year-old girl.
Well, it was the same thing here, but I'll get the transcripts in English for you.
Yeah, and French. And French.
Too bad Mikey didn't know that.
Yeah, so that to me is the big thing, is that that to me is the big thing, is what Mr. Daly said, is when you make a claim, the reason why it's so important to make it short and sweet is because you have to say it verbatim, exactly. You cannot add a word, you can't take a word away. So with Bali, it was 8 words. So there's no way in the world they could possibly trip him up. I can't imagine how he could possibly be tripped. It was like, I claim the wrong of trespass, see Exhibit A. How in the world can you possibly be tripped up? Because when you make a claim, you have to be dead on accurate. Like I say to people all the time, like say there's a contest, like National Geographic has a contest, you know, back who's going to discover like the bottom of the ocean, or who's going to discover the South Pole. And let's just say who's going to discover the very, the lowest point on planet Earth. That's say the last point that has to be discovered. And say that say it's $1 million award, or say $1 billion award. There you go. That'll make people more interested. 10 billion or $1 billion award. Who could ever hit the bottom of the planet Earth, the lowest point? And all the National Geographic Society's got to do is get a lawyer to say to the guy who thinks that he discovered the lowest point, and say to him, so, did you put a flag on it, on the bottom? Yeah, I put the American flag at the bottom, the Swedish flag at the bottom of the world. Oh, really? And how was it down there? Was it cold? Oh, it was below freezing. Oh, and how was it? Could you see clearly? Oh, no, we could barely see. So are you sure that you put it on the exact dead spot of the lowest point on planet Earth? It's like, oh, yeah, we know we did. It's like, but you said it was cold. You said you could barely breathe. You could hardly see. And well, the GPS coordinates said it was right there, so we were there. It's like, are you sure that you weren't off by one hair or one breath? Are you sure you weren't off by maybe a slightest of a millimeter? Are you sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, would you bet your life on it, that if we went back there, you were on that spot? He's like, you put it that way, I guess no. I guess maybe if I'm off by a millimeter, well, no. The rules are you have to put it on the lowest point on planet Earth. It has to be on, not close, not semi-close, it has to be dead on. So that's how lawyers will try to convince people, a man, to lose his status or position in court, by getting him to convince him that it's, let's be reasonable about this. Are you sure? Are you just got to keep saying the exact, look, all I claim is I, a man, claim the wrong of trespass. That's it, see Exhibit A. Did you see Exhibit A? Good. Do you understand Exhibit A? No. Okay, I'll explain Exhibit A, but my claim always stands true. I believe I've been done wrong due to a trespass. What trespass? See Exhibit A. I'll talk about Exhibit A, but I'm not going to discuss my claim. I believe I've been done wrong, and that's it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say another word. And like I said, with this man, like Mr. Daly kept saying, the man just said, I order and require the immediate restoration of property. Because like I said, governments don't exist to protect you, birds, your money, your bank account, nothing. They don't exist. It's just only to secure and protect your property. So I said to Mr. Daly, he said, just like you have 350 employees, if one of the people that work for you steals something or breaks something, you hold his property until he compensates you. You have to release it to him. As soon as he gets to court, the judge will say, Mr. Daly, is that your property? It's like, well, no, it's his property, right? Give him back his property. Now we'll discuss the matter of the debt that he owes you. But no, if you're claiming that that's your property and nobody else is making a claim for the property, it has to go back to the rightful owner. So you have to give back the man's property. And that's what, like I try to say, they try to say, oh, it's evil to think that you're an owner. Let's be all kumbaya. There's no property. It's like, really? Do you understand your rights are your property? Do you understand that you only have certain things that which you can and cannot do if you wish to? You know, rights is just a subcategory of property. And if you're saying, well, nobody should have property, oh, really? Then you have no rights. And it's like, well, that's not what I said. It's like, yes, you did, because rights are a subcategory of what you claim that is what is to be used by you and exclusive to you. You got the right to free speech. You got the right to travel from point A to point B. So, what was I going to show you guys? Oh, that thing with the one man asked me about real civil rights, international rights, and stuff like that. UN, all this nonsense. All these charters and civil rights. There you go. And what a bunch of a list that civil rights have. I guess I can try to make this bigger, but it's ridiculous. I tried to do this way. That's why we came here now late, because I was trying to do these PowerPoints real quick that people were asking me that nobody's really asked me before in other seminars. I said, let me put a couple of these things up here. But like I said, when people say stuff about like civil rights, to me, I have no civil rights. When they say to me, you have civil rights, it's rights or privileges that are granted by a government. And if something is granted, if it can be granted, it can be given, and it can also be taken away. Like mom gives you the right to stay up until 9 o'clock, but then she also has the right to, take it back. So, you know what, I don't want any civil rights. I don't want something that can be given to me and can be taken away. I just want my property. I don't want any rights that you bestow upon me. I don't want nothing titled to me, granted to me. I just want my property. I want to claim what is due, what is mine, and mine alone. And the government can't make a claim. The only thing the government could ever do is, like I said, make criminal complaints against you. The only thing the government can do against man is make complaints. They can't make a claim against the man. So like I said, like a legal society stuff, they'll give you guys all this ridiculous nonsense, the right to due process, enjoyment of life, liberty, property, protection, the right to vote, equal access to schools, recreation, transportation. It's all nonsense. It's like, look, if somebody's, trespassing upon me, doing me wrong, by interfering, like a trespass is anything that you believe that somebody deliberately set out to do to you. Negligence just means an accident. Okay, they did something to you, they hit you with their car, but, they sneezed. So it was negligence. It's not that they did you wrong because they didn't say, hey, you know what, I'm going to run over any black truck I see today, I'm going to slam it with my car because I hate black trucks. That would be wrong. But if he hits your car by accident, it's negligence. It's not wrong. So somebody else was saying something about like birth certificates and stuff. What were you guys going on about? Because this is all I hear all the time, how evil birth certificates are. Because let me just play the one thing. Oh, no, go ahead. Tell me how evil they are first. How evil is birth certificates there, Tim? What's that?
Real evil.
Yeah, how evil are they?
Well, that's where we get entrapped into this whole system, is through the creation of that. I see it as your property. You can use that as that's going to be your, essentially,
It's a receipt.
your property. A receipt. The only one you got.
It's a valuable
From the government,
warehouse
actually,
security.
Treasury receipt.
Somebody started a trust, and here's my receipt for whatever they might owe me or may owe
Yeah, so it's a real bad thing to have up here in Canada, huh?
That's right, people don't want it.
People don't want it. Huh?
Warehouse security,
Yeah, but what's the benefit of having a birth certificate?
commerce,
Yeah, what kind of commerce?
like in the public.
Like what kind of benefit? Okay, this makes it really simple. I'm from the United States, right? Right. You guys can own land. Can I own land in Canada?
No.
I don't got a birth certificate. Can the Chinese come here and buy up all your land?
I have no problem at all.
No problem at all.
The Chinese could buy your land.
They're
Yes,
buying it
in a
up right
heartbeat.
now.
Are you sure it's land that they're buying and not real estate?
Real estate.
Real estate is not land.
This is true.
That's right.
Well, they're claiming ownership too.
Of
Well,
what? Real estate or
Real
land?
estate.
Yeah.
Real estate is not
Thousands
land.
of
They're
acres.
putting barbed wire fences
Real estate is
around
that which
Can I
exists
interject
above
because
the
They
ground.
potentially
Yeah,
are
so
going
what?
for
It's
land.
real
public
property,
claim over
real
it.
They can't, the banks can't own land.
Hey
I can't
Justin,
own
what are
land.
they claiming
I
on
hear
you?
that,
Didn't
but-
they-
You guys are confusing real estate with land.
Justin, what are they calling your house, land?
They called, yeah, in my documents it says that the lands consist of a house.
That's right.
So,
The lands consist of a house, that's right. If the lands consist of a house, are you saying that my house is inside of the land? Or is my house above the land?
so land, real estate is everything
You have a
above the
base
land.
that is
Right,
inside
real
your-
estate is that above the land, like every millimeter, every breath hair above.
Right, and
The-
they're putting
like-
barbed wire fences
How about
around.
the
House off my
basement?
land.
They're
It's
real
inside
estate,
the land.
and they're telling you to stay off it.
That's not it. Who's telling you to stay off it?
The Chinese.
Kim Chung Yong Dong.
No, that's not Chinese.
No, it's
That's him. That's him.
Put you in the
Get 'em.
process
That's
to
Korea.
step onto it.
And who's gonna, and because, like, okay, let's say you fell out of an airplane in a parachute, you saying they're gonna shoot you when you land on their land?
They will escort you off immediately.
What's that?
They'll escort you off immediately.
Okay, so they'll escort you off, so you're saying that nobody has the right to, real estate? Nobody has the right to,
That's true, because if you don't pay your property taxes, your house is taken back by the municipality.
but not the land.
No, just the,
Well, it's
well,
not
you
there.
can't
So
go
how-
back to the
yeah,
land and
how
sit
do
on
you
the
go back
land.
to
Okay, like I say to people, when the bank makes a claim, when they give you, you put up the land as collateral, right, because it's your land. Right?
The house is, like, the real estate is collateral, not the land.
What's the land? Is the land in deed or is the land
It
in?
can't be owned, the land can't be owned.
Deed.
Okay, it's deed?
Well, title. Land.
Okay, they got a deed up here in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
got
title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's just
Deed.
registered in the land titles office.
Yeah, and who's the deed to? To a man or to the bank?
Well, the bank only has title. They don't
That's
have
right.
the deed.
They don't have the deed. That's right, because the
Because the
bank,
deed was never had here because there was no treaty, because they needed a treaty to get the deed.
no, the
Bank
deed, the
can't
deed, they do have
loan
deeds.
money on
Well, let me
land.
put this, in the United States, there's deeds, and then they got the title, or the mortgage. They got the deed, and then they got the note.
That's right.
Okay, so the deed is the land. It's based upon the land, and it's always in the name of a man. It's never in the name of the bank. So the bank said to me, well, we got a mortgage on that home of yours. I said, that's right, you do got a mortgage on a home. That's right, you want the home. You're absolutely right. What am I thinking of? Come and get your home off of my land.
Yes.
If you want to claim it's your house, I'm not going to argue with you. I totally agree, 100%, that I borrowed all this money from you, Mr. Bank, and you have every right to come and collect your home, because you know what? You actually, and your investors actually put all this money into this home. I didn't put a dime. All I did is put my signature on a piece of paper saying I'd pay you back, and guess what? I didn't. Oh, well, I guess I'm not a man of my word, so I guess, you know what, it's only fair and just for you to come here and take my home, not take your home off of my land, because the bank has no right to land.
What if I did put money into the house?
Then you get equitable compensation for what you put in at that point. That's what we do.
But if
Can
you,
you make a claim from the private on that?
But why don't you just tell the bank to come get their damn house off your land?
Yeah.
So
Because
land
the bank doesn't have
You
ears.
and I both know that's not gonna happen.
What's not gonna happen?
The bank will not come along and take that
no, you
house
get
off the land.
escorted out by.
So?
You'll get escorted off by the sheriff at gunpoint if you
Yes.
want.
Why?
That's right.
You told the bank to
That's
come and
what
take,
will
you told the bank to come get your car.
They won't
So
listen
if
to it.
the bank, if your bank wanted to take your car back from you, right? And they'd come on your property and take the car, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they did.
They wouldn't escort you off, would they? They just escorted the car.
Yeah.
So take the house. Escort the house off the property.
You can't have the house unless it's on wheels.
That's
What
not,
if
that's
there's
not,
basement?
they want the house. They
That's
screaming
why
up and
we
down
have
in court.
land
They
on
want their house back. Give them back their house. So do you want it piece by piece? How do you want me to deliver it to you? You want me to mail it to you? Or you want to just come and take it all in one piece? They have places, they have the ability to actually move a house. They could have house movers, move your house off my land. And when you cross my property line, you cross into my threshold, you're going to need a permit.
Yeah.
You're going to need a permit to enter into my land.
So
And I'll give you a permit, but it's going to cost you $1 million a day. Because I'm the one who issues permits on my land.
You don't own your land up here, the municipality, it's under its district of municipality, so
No,
if you're
but I
incorporated,
got, the name is on title though.
your name is
So
on the
now I have a
title,
question. When
but
it
that
comes to
land
real
resides in the district of.
But who has the control over the land here in Canada?
Well, if you've signed any sort of bank papers, you've given up that consent in a sense.
No, the corporation
It's
can't own
land and
land.
titles, Guy.
Yeah, land and titles.
Even if there's we have land and titles, Guy. There's a deed registered there and there's a title registered there.
Yeah, for the state.
So-
And you have a legitimate claim to your equity that you've put into it as well.
Even if there's,
But the claim of a man stands higher than the claim of a fiction. This is my understanding or comprehension
and
of
even
it.
if there's a utility right of way, it's, if there's a natural boundary or a locked fence or gate, it's trespassing.
So just to be clear, can a man own the land here in Canada?
Not from my understanding.
What's the truth? Who knows the truth?
Well, like I said, in the United States, we own our land.
Yeah.
The land is in our name. My
No,
land
we
is
have
in my
deeds
name.
here, for sure.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? We have deeds here. Does that mean we own the land?
Well,
I don't have a deed, I just have a land.
See what
Does
happens
nobody
if
know,
you-
like
Well,
yes or
does-
no
does somebody
answer?
need-
yeah, but what about the
See what happens when you
disclaimer
don't pay your
about
property
Aboriginal
tax?
lands?
Then
The
you'll know.
disclaimer about Aboriginal lands?
Does
The title's
the
nonsense.
province or the town, or does somebody need a warrant to come onto your property?
Yes.
Generally,
Well,
actually,
no.
no, they don't. They actually can pull up.
They
They don't. They can pull up on you because you have the fact that your house is already in a municipality.
No, I'm saying can,
You just
okay,
can't bust your door down unless they have a warrant.
okay, that's what I asked you. I said, do they have to have a warrant?
Yes,
And who issued that warrant?
who issues the order?
Usually
No,
it's a judge or
Casper the Ghost didn't issue the
maybe a
warrant.
man or a woman behind
A
that.
piece, right, a piece of
So,
paper, right, a
sure.
piece of paper, or somebody put hand to paper and they issued the warrant. Who issued the warrant?
They didn't use their bond to issue it. They used your bond.
I'm asking a simple
A
question.
man or a woman
man.
who's acting.
Fair enough.
A man issued the warrant, right? They
Yeah.
put pen, paper, and ink to paper and they issued the warrant. Bob issued the warrant.
Okay.
So you're gonna hold Bob accountable to you man to man. Because you have a problem understanding the concept of man to man. You don't ever deal with these people man to man. You want to deal with them because they're wearing a badge or whatever they want. You want to look at them as you look at. Yeah, you're saying the judge. You're saying prosecutor.
Well, this is the person that actually
You're
would have
saying
signed
that
the
you're saying the
warrant.
county or the town or whatever you just said. Something about a county or town. This county or town is Bob.
They have a name, yes, but it's like, where did you? So you're going to take the judge Bob
Okay.
to common law.
This is what I say to people all the time. As you guys keep doing this a million times, there is no such thing as they. They aren't doing anything to you.
Yeah, it's
Bob is doing. This just sounds like some 1950s horror movie.
Yeah.
It's them. It's coming after me. Oh, it's the revenge of the them. It just does. It sounds like a really bad science fiction movie.
Still, we understand the man and the woman concept behind.
Then
the,
say it
the
every. If you
costume.
understand it, it's a lifestyle.
It's not a
belief.
concept.
It's not. It's what I live every day. And when I encounter a man with a badge, it's very easy for me to get through this in 2 seconds. It's like, oh, hi, Bob. How you doing? It's like, oh, what's your name? Oh, my name's Carl. How can I help you today? You know, we're talking to you, man. That's how Jimmy Lynn did the second traffic stop. He said the second traffic stop. He said to the officer. Officer said to him, a license registration. He says, I got to ask you a question, man to man. You are a man, correct? And the officer looked at him and said, what? License registration. So it says, man to man. You're a man, right? And you're interfering with my right to go from point A to point B. You do know that. He says, license registration. He says, you are a man and I'm a man, correct? Yeah. Do you have any right or authority to tell a man what he can and cannot do? And he said the officer just left. And then he said that on my show. You know, he said when the second one worked, he said, that's it, I'm going to come up and meet you. I got to see who the hell you are. He said, because this stuff is just too ridiculous. So they understand the concept man to man.
But he better not smell weed in your car, because otherwise he's in there and he's pretty much butt raping.
Only if you allow him in there. And
Okay.
No, he's in there. What do you mean? There's no allowance.
What did I say that happened in New Brunswick with the drunk driver?
Yeah.
He handed him a bill for $5,000 on Monday and all the charges were dropped by Tuesday. Because the officers realized that he did wrong.
Now they're not wanting to.
Did you ever send him a bill for the invoice?
Yeah, I sent him an invoice for $50,000 for getting in the back of his car. Which
And
is,
what did they do?
The charges are still going ahead.
Good. And why aren't you enforcing the charges, on enforcing the bill?
Well, I am actually. This is my
How?
next claim. This will be the claim.
And what did you do to enforce the bill? The guy, somebody owes me, I owe you $50,000. What are you doing to enforce it?
I guess I'm going to go to claim
You
it.
guess.
Yeah.
You guess.
Well, I haven't made the claim yet. I know.
I guess you got to learn how to
claim.
make a claim in court
I have
that
a
somebody
claim.
has failed to
Well,
compensate.
this is what the whole understanding of trying to concept of doing is to be able to take an actual procedural way to now go and enforce that claim into a Queen's bench or whatever your small claims, whatever you want to call the courthouse you want it to be, to go down there and actually do that.
If somebody owed you money, how long would it take you to make a claim against them? 5 seconds? But because he's an officer, you're not too sure where to go.
Well, because I don't want to be stung by paying his fee schedules for having to show up for any of
If
that
a man owed you money, how long would it take
I've
you to
seen
make
that.
the claims
That
court?
actually worked with Joe and Catherine. When they put in their Queen's Bench, what did they receive? But a fee schedule from the Crown. So what that actually tells me that the fee schedule is absolutely 100% correct because they're using the same shit.
Okay, and when I explained to you guys, when the Crown was summoned to appear in Queen's Bench in England, they had to pay 70,000 Canadian dollars
To the
for every day to appear in Queen's Bench in my court.
And who are they paying that to?
Queen's Bench, the administrative cost for having Crown appear in Queen's Bench. Just because Joe and Catherine only listen to 10 seconds of my stuff and they're not winning every single thing they're doing is because they put 10 seconds of effort into it. Like I said, if somebody owes you money, you're like, well, gee, I guess I got to go move a claim against the cop still. No, you got to move a claim against the man.
Well, yeah, in his area of districts, that means you have to go to wherever they live, and we do live on a large landmass. Can I mail it in? Can I register mail in my claim to the actual courthouse?
Of course you
Or do I
can.
actually can show
Of course
up?
you can.
You know, this is where you have to.
If somebody owed you money in Manitoba, what would you do?
Well,
You'd make a claim in
them,
Manitoba.
tell them
You just file a claim to the court.
in their city of area.
That's right, wherever they live. You just say, because they're obviously going to require the police or the authority to go into that man's house and get a judgment against him so they could take his property from him so he could turn it over to you for whatever he owes, the warrant of debt. You want to have them execute the warrant of debt. No sheriff is going to execute the warrant of debt from BC over Manitoba. You're going to have to get the BC, Manitoba department of, the sheriff's department out there to go execute the warrant of debt.
So it can be mailed in, and as long as you can mail that in, you can actually get a court date and then show up for that and actually then stand and, as a man, claim that he owes money.
If it's worth it to you, yeah, you drive over there and go get it. If it's not worth it to you, you're not going to make the claim.
Oh, no, I'll be driving over.
Yeah.
I had my car removed from my property. Account of the revenue agent.
It was seized or was removed?
It was seized.
Seized means it
Written
went through.
seizure.
Yeah, right. That's why removed and seizure doesn't mean the same
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
Seizure means it went through a legal, lawful process.
Right. I
Removed
wasn't-
just means it could mean
I wasn't
like.
a party to it. but they just
Well,
went and
you
did
were a party to it. You put pen, paper, and ink in your writing, and you dressed somebody. You wrote to the CRA or whoever IRS. Who took it from you?
CRA did.
There you go, CRA. How did they know you existed on planet Earth?
Because I applied for a social
There you go.
insurance card.
Right. And when you applied for it, then what happened?
Well, then you're
You gave
party
power
to
of
their-
attorney.
Then you're a party to their body world.
You believe you're a party. How long are you a party? How long are you?
As long as you want to be.
And why did you decide to stay there until they took your car? Why didn't you opt out?
Because I didn't really know how to do that.
Yeah, well, you basically have to say to the CRA is like, I believe that you are trying to like intercourse and commerce with me, or you're trying to engage or trying to communicate with me. I've never met you, Mr. CRA. Can we have lunch? Can we have coffee?
Yeah, I would have done that 4 years ago if I had that understanding.
Yeah, but like I said, that's the whole thing, is when somebody's sending me a letter in the mail, the very first thing I send back to them, I say, oh, thank you, Mr. CRA. That's an odd name for a child. You say it to yourself, right, that's an odd name because, like I said, I thought somebody was giving me ridiculous emails. His name was called Amicus Curie, Raindrop and Drizzle and Bucket. And so I thought the guy was joking. I actually met these Jamaican people. They came and met me in Virginia. And they really did have a kid named Amicus Curie and Rain Bucket Drizzle. So
My question, Carl, is when I file a claim, do I go after the agent or do I go after the woman who wrote the order in the federal court?
Well,
or do I go after the bailiff?
All of them, join the claim. No, you go after the man or woman that operated any one of those positions.
Singularly, like.
okay, so like you said, to me is when they seize something, that means they did it through a legal, lawful process. So you're going to have to show them where they did not do something legal or lawful. Somehow they went around what they were only obligated, and you agreed that they could or could not do against you. So how are you going to show that what they did to you was illegal or unlawful when you consented to it? Like if you belonged to a golf club and you didn't pay union dues or membership fees, or you drove your golf cart across the ninth hole or something like that, and they're going to impose a final penalty on you, and they're going to get other people of that society to impose upon you and take money from you, or it won't let you, it won't, take fines, or, like I said, when they get a posse to come to your house and, obtain property from you because you owe them fines or penalties to that society, you have to allow them to impose because you agreed to the certain rules and conditions in which you would be bound by. So when you intercourse with these societies, you become, like I said, you go over to a Muslim country and you want to be a Muslim, or you want to practice Islamic law, you better believe if they're going to cut off your hand, they're going to cut off your hand. And after they cut off your hand, then what are you going to do? Make a suit? That's like, wait a second, you agreed to be a part of this culture. You agreed to be part of this society. This is what you agreed that you would let us impose upon you. And now you don't want it? How are you going to spin the clock back and go backwards? And that's why I try to tell people all the time, they want to go back to the IRS and go after these people for what they did 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I was like, how are you going to do that when you were part of their culture and part of their society?
Because theirs is a fraudulent culture.
You agreed to be a part of it.
They failed to disclose all these.
So because they failed to disclose, or you weren't trained, disciplined, and monitored properly by your parents before they put you out into the public.
You know what I heard you say one time? You were like, this, it was a judge or a justice down there, and he said that you hadn't become a man yet, and you got kind of offended.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm just kind of being reminded of that right now, because it's like a bunch of like adults here that are still got these like child-like symptoms in their bodies.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great. Because, what's his man's name? He had a funny first name. He had a woman's first name, but he was a big guy. Oh man, I wish I could remember his name. Was
Lori?
No, it's funny. Sandy Callahan Jr. Yeah, his name is Sandy Callahan. If you Google him, he's got his own law practice now. And he was a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves down there, so he was a big guy. But his name is Sandy Callahan Jr. He worked for the Northern Division of Department of Justice at the Criminal Division in Birmingham, Alabama. And we went down there and we tried to whine that, the state of Alabama took my newborn and they wouldn't give it back, wouldn't give us the case file, wouldn't do this, wouldn't do this. All this nonsense. He says, honestly, the United States government can't help you. I said, why not? He says, honestly, no government official can help you. I said, why not? He said, because another government has got your child, no other government official can interfere. You have to learn what it takes to be a man in court. If you don't learn how to be a man, you're never going to see your kid. He said, there's absolutely nothing the FBI could do for you, because it's funny, because then we went over to the FBI. But he said, until you learn how to be a man, you're never going to get your child back. Once you learn how to be a man and move a court, you'll know what to do. So I was insulted because, like I said, I had my whole family there, my extended family, and I said, well, I've been taking care of my folks' farm, and this is crazy. What do you mean I'm not a man? So what was funny is, we even went down to the FBI, and the FBI had a dad and a daughter team. It was weird to see dad and daughter FBI agents. So they went down to the family court, and they said, we'll get a copy of this contract, we'll get a copy of this case file. They accept federal funds, the Child Service Protection Agency. We have authority over them. We're going to go make the claim that we want the access to the paperwork. So 20 minutes later, they came back, looking down at the ground and said, didn't go too successful there in family court, did it? He says, the FBI guy said, no, when we got to the court clerk, we actually see a copy of the case file. And they said, oh, that man's case file, both copies of it is in the judge's chambers. We'll go tell the judge that you're down here. He said the judge came down, her name was Sandra Storm. Came down there and she said, I'll give you 3 seconds to get the hell out of my building. I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. I'm going to keep you here for the rest of your life. Wow. So you got 2 seconds. You got 1 more second. Get out of my building. So the judge kicked you out of the courthouse. And he said, absolutely. So I said, yeah, I guess FBI badge really didn't work too well with her, did it? She knows whose jurisdiction this is. You walked into her land. You walked into her territory, her jurisdiction. You're a guest. And she could consider you a hostile enemy, and she could keep you here as long as she wishes to, until she retires. She's like, yeah, we couldn't get anything. I said, that's right. And you're the FBI. And see how well it worked against that 70-year-old little old lady, that's her courthouse? You're not operating on the same rules. That's HUD jurisdiction. He has control over that. But like I say to people, you know, the birth certificates are fine and all this CRA stuff is wonderful for corporations, but like I said, I haven't dealt with the IRS. You guys know why I don't deal with the IRS, right?
Yeah.
Because of my mom and what she told me.
Good old mom.
Yeah, she told me, you know, do you believe you owe taxes? Do you remember that? Yeah, so like I said, I'll do it real quick for you guys. My mom said to me, I was working on her car. She had to go to church on Wednesday, so we had to do this quick. You know, I walked upstairs, and my mom said, look, you're a bartender, and you bowling alley, you fix machines, you chase pens, you make like minimum wage. How could you possibly owe taxes? My mom did all the family's tax returns every year. This is back in '87. She says, how in the world could you possibly owe money? I said, well, I put down 9 dependents, so that way I get the maximum amount in my paycheck every week. She says, yeah, well, that's illegal, and that's, you know, you just committed fraud on a federal document, and you could go to jail for that. She said, that's okay, I'll see if there's any fines or penalties. I'll write a nice note back to them and say that you'll never do that again. She says, and don't ever do that again. Don't ever mess with the IRS again. So she looks at me and she realizes you're going to mess with them until the day you die. You're just one of those kind of kids. You're just not going to stop. She just knew me since I was born. She's my mom. She knew I was always going to, no matter what she told me, I was going to try to figure out a way around it. So she said, let me tell you everything you need about the IRS. And I was carrying groceries up the stairs, and we talked at the top of the landing, and she wanted to cook dinner. So she did this really quick. She said, do you believe in Santa Claus? I said, no. I said, but, she said, I told you that there was a Santa Claus. She said, yeah, so I guess I lied to you. And I looked at her, I was like, She said, you believe in a tooth fairy? I said, no. She said, but you used to. And who told you that? I said, well, you did, you're my mom, so I guess I'm a liar. I said, huh? I said, do you believe you have to pay the IRS taxes every year? I said, yeah. She said, oh, you're not following this. And she said, I really got to go. She said, Santa Claus? No. Tooth fairy? No. IRS? Yes. She said, oh, one more time. Santa Claus? No. Tooth fairy? No. IRS, you got to pay taxes every year? I said, no. She said, that's all you never need to know about the IRS. Now go outside. If you don't believe you owe taxes, you don't owe taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Go out and go fix my car. So what was funny about that, what she was telling me about this belief concept, is the reason why she told me to believe in Santa Claus when we had time to talk was Santa Claus was like this eye in the sky, this network, this iNet or Skynet, that he's going to watch me and see if I'm naughty and nice, if I'm behaving, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do when mom's not around. He knows when I'm naughty, he knows when I'm nice, so I better be good for goodness sake or I'm not going to get a benefit. So she's got this Skynet guy watching me. And it was a benefit for her because she could perform and she could act as a mom, and me as a kid was controlled by fear or terror that if I did something wrong, I wouldn't get a great benefit. So it's the same thing with the tooth fairy. If I didn't brush my teeth, I wouldn't get money for bad teeth. So it made me brush my teeth. Instead of her playing cop every 5 seconds and making me brush my teeth every day, she knew if I wanted cash, I'd brush my teeth. So, like I said, the same thing with the IRS. It's the same concept. Do you believe that you have to pay taxes? Well, then you pay your taxes. If you don't believe you have to pay taxes, nobody could force you to do something. It's all voluntary. And like I said, that video that I showed everybody to watch all the time, Harry Reid keeps saying to this kid, the kid keeps saying to him, it's like, taxes voluntary. He says, absolutely. Nobody could force anybody to do anything or give any of their property over to the government. It all has to come through voluntary consent. He says, but if I don't pay my taxes, I'll go to jail. I says, yes, if you don't pay your taxes, you will go to jail. And he says, but that doesn't make sense. And Harry Reid was saying it dead on. You know, you're bound to that duty and obligation. You consented to it. Nobody else did. You did. So those are your responsibility. That's your obligations. You have to live up to them. If you don't, your society is going to impose upon you until you do. So like I said, people have to understand this simple concept. When you're a member of society, I don't care if you're part of the Aboriginal people or Eskimos, if you don't do what you agreed to do with the Eskimos, well, when the bad weather comes and you have no food, and what are you going to do? Start crying to the Eskimos like, hey, give me some fish? It's like, no, you had a duty and obligation, you failed to perform, you die. And that's the rules of our society. If you don't like it, you shouldn't have been part of our society. So it's just very simple, basic concepts that you owe a duty and obligation to those within the society. If you want to pull out of that society, nobody can force you to stay in that society. And like I said, with this birth certificate, it doesn't show that they have proof of control over you. You just say, at any time, that, like I said, a man could say, a government has certain charters and they're bound by statutes. There's only certain things they can and cannot do. A man could believe he's anything he wants to be. A man could believe he could fly to the moon. Everybody thinks that's crazy. Some man thought that he could sail around the world and not fall off the edge. People thought that was crazy. So any man could believe whatever he wants to believe, and no matter what anybody says is crazy, a judge knows that if a man says that he no longer wishes to be part of that society, the judge knows that we can't force him to be part of the society, and that you can't impose a duty and obligation upon me anymore because I no longer wish to be a member of that society.
So how can you do that? You just go to the court and say, I don't want to be...
You put it in writing. You just say, I no longer wish to participate in this society. I'm sorry if I imposed or interfered at any time in the past. Send me the bill for any due obligations or past due bills that you believe I owe you. I'll tender them to me, and I'll settle them and discharge them as fast as I can. But I no longer want to be considered part of your society. Don't hold any more obligations and duties and responsibility upon me.
What if you have the same house and you don't get out of your house and you still have to pay property taxes?
No, I'm saying no. Property taxes is not what we're talking about. You know, property taxes to me, you know, like I said, a lot of people boo me when I say property taxes, but if you don't pay property taxes, go look at Detroit or go look at Camden, New Jersey. It's the people who don't pay property taxes. They got no police services there. They got no fire departments. You need somebody bringing into your home, call up a private security force to come and protect you because the police aren't coming anymore.
They never
people don't want to pay property taxes anymore, and the property taxes that they are collecting are so small, they had to let all the police and fire departments go. So your house just burns down to the ground. Because like I said, it's a modern concept to have a police force or a fire department. It is a modern concept that you grew up to believe that they're supposed to be there for us at all times. But, you know, back in the 1800s, you paid people to put out your fire. You paid people to come and police your neighborhood. You didn't just get it because you just happened to live in that neighborhood and you could dial 911. Back then, you had to hire private people who were willing to do that kind of work for you. So like I said, that's what they're going to try to do. The municipalities are trying to privatize everything. They're trying to say, you know, privatize the roads. You know, we don't want to take care of the roads anymore. We're going to bring Spain over here, and they're going to buy up all our roads, and they're going to put toll booths every 5 miles here in Canada.
Oh God, that would be terrible.
But that's what they're going to do because you folks don't want to pay taxes. So if you don't want to pay taxes, don't pay taxes. But how are we going to keep these roads up and running? If you guys don't give
so much tax.
But I'm saying if you don't want to, just say everybody decides not to. You just say, you know what, we don't want to pay taxes anymore. How are the public services going to be?
What about all the royalties that the government brings in through our resources and
gas tax.
and
Listen,
gas?
okay, like I said, all I'm trying to say is what happened in California. There was a town like Salinas, California, and the mayors and everybody was taking all the property taxes and giving themselves like $1 million paychecks every year, and they're all sitting in jail right now. So you have to find the man who's taking the money and doing something other than what it was earmarked to do.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to take the time to find out where is all this tax money going and actually criminally going after the man who's actually taking the money or the woman who's taking the money for their own private interests, you know, then it's just because you guys are too lazy to actually find out where's all this tax money going. But some people actually take the time out to figure out where every single nickel, dime, and penny. Thank God you've got some really nerdy guys out here in these patriot movements that'll actually go through all the books and try to find out where every single nickel and dime that was collected from the people, where it went. It's because do people remember what the 9/11, when that 9/11 nonsense happened? And I'm trying to remember the man who was in charge of Donald Rumsfeld. Do you remember what he said on September 10th? Does anybody remember the day before?
No.
He said, well, the Department of Defense, we can't account for $1 trillion is missing.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
The truck.
Yeah, $1 trillion is missing. On September the 10th, he came out and said $1 trillion was missing. And Building 7 and the Pentagon, where the Pentagon got hit, just happened to be the places where the records were kept for the accounting of that $1 trillion.
Yeah.
And Enron, and a few other things.
No. I am talking just about September the 10th. I'm not going off of no crazy conspiracy nonsense. All I'm saying is on September the 10th, he gave a public announcement to all the news medias of the world that he says, we have to give full disclosure. We're the United States government. We do the honorable thing. We are going to give the people full disclosure. The Defense Department, we cannot account for $1 trillion and we'll figure out where it went. You know, trust me, we'll figure this out. So the very next day, Building 7 falls down. It wasn't even hit by a plane.
Yeah.
The Pentagon was hit on the side of the building where all the accounting records, the bookkeeping records were kept. So with pinpoint accuracy, all the bookkeeping and accounting of the $1 trillion disappearance disappeared the very next day. So it's just remarkable, like I said, that they know that the government officials could have all went to jail. You know, people could have, and whatever, Halliburton could have got in big trouble. That's the corporation that provided all the defense contracts. They were the ones who were the major contractors who took all the money in. So this is what I'm trying to say. They know it. Even the government officials know that if they embezzle money or take money and you guys catch them, they will go to jail if you guys prosecute them. But if you don't prosecute them, you know, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing.
On that note, we gotta shut it down, guys. We can go outside and talk. Let's just